Chapter 1386. Ants 3. A pretty boy is a pretty boy. He's really weak. With this little strength, you dare to snatch my woman. You really don't know your own strength. Seeing that he had killed the man who was living off a woman with just one move, the leader felt even more pleased with himself. However, his smugness did not last long. He saw that the huge water attribute divine power that had originally enveloped the monster's body was slowly decreasing. Then, the light blue divine power disappeared faster and faster. In a few seconds, the water attribute divine power on the monster's body disappeared. The evildoer stretched his back lazily, as if he had eaten to his heart's content, and said indifferently, "This amount of divine power is too little. Give me more." "Damn it, what did you just say?" The leader had a look of disbelief. Fuck, was this still considered a human? It had actually devoured his divine power. How was this possible? The man really couldn't believe what he was seeing, so he could only lie to himself and conclude that this devilish pretty boy wasn't human. "I said, you have too little shun power. I'm not full. Give me more." The demon said with a face full of anticipation. You're not human," the man in the lead said angrily. He was even more certain that this person who could devour shun power was not human, because humans could not do such a heaven-defying thing. "How can you scold people? If I'm not a human, are you?" the demon said with a face of dissatisfaction. "Of course I'm a human," the leading man shouted. After knowing that the evildoer in front of him could devour his shun power, he was not so sure that he could kill him. However, he knew that he could not show even a trace of fear. Otherwise, how would he be able to convince the others in the future? "Oh, really? Why don't I feel like you're human? However, you're definitely not a beastie. You're worse than a beast," the demon said very seriously. "Damn it, you're looking for death." The leader was furious. Just as he was about to attack again, he saw the demonic man in front of him looking at him expectantly. He immediately gave up the idea of attacking again. This guy liked to devour divine power. If he was the one making a move, wouldn't that be going along with his wishes? No, I can't fall for his trick. However, this pretty boy was so difficult to deal with. If he couldn't kill him, how could he take this beauty away? At this time, he was quite conflicted in his heart. "Why did you stop? Continue. He'll be waiting." The demon's smile was pure and innocent. However, the more unthreatening his smile was, the more frightened the other party was, and the more he did not dare to attack. After waiting for a moment, the demon saw that the other party had no intention of attacking. He was slightly dissatisfied and complained, "Since you're not willing to make a move, I'll have to do it myself." As soon as he finished speaking, he directly attacked the man in the lead. As for the moves, naturally, it was his favorite fist. Oh, only the feeling of punching someone with one's fist and making loud bangs would have the atmosphere of a fight, and this had always been his favorite. With a few loud bangs, the evildoer's fists drew beautiful arcs in the air, and all his fists landed on the leading man. His fists were so fast that no one noticed that there were a few strands of black divine power thinner than hair as fists. The divine power entered the leading man's body through his fists and settled down happily inside. The man in the lead had two attributes. One was the water attribute, and the other was the earth attribute, which was good at defense. The shun power of these two attributes had originally occupied half of the man's body and maintained a balance. However, the moment the black shun power as thin as a hair entered their territory, the shun power of the two attributes sensed it. Thus, in order to defend their territory, the shun power of the water and earth attributes joined together to resist the invasion of the enemy. The black shun power was small and flexible, like a small spirit snake wandering around. Wherever it went, no matter what attribute the shun power was, it would quickly decrease. This caused the two shun powers to panic, so the water and earth shun power went berserk. However, the small black shun power did not intend to face them head-on, so it always avoided their pursuit and slithered away happily. The divine power of the two attributes became more and more violent, and their behavior was directly reflected in the leader's body. At this time, the leader not only had to bear the physical pain, but he also had to bear the uncontrollable divine power in his body. Under such double pressure, he immediately spat out blood and looked at the demon in disbelief. What did you do to me? The leader was in disbelief. In his opinion, his strength was clearly higher than the pretty boy in front of him. But why was it that in front of this demonic man, he did not have the slightest power to fight back? This was not normal. It was too abnormal, and he couldn't accept it. Therefore, he concluded that this man must have used improper means. Otherwise, how could he be controlled by someone else? Do I need to do anything to you? In my eyes, you're just an ant. The demon coldly laughed. The haughtiness of looking down on the world instantly erupted from his body, causing people to not dare to look at him directly. At this moment, not only was the leader shocked, even Yin Xiao, the Yin clan's great elder, and the rest who had been with them for a period of time were equally shocked. This was because they had never seen such a devilishly handsome man exude such an intimidating aura. In their eyes, the man's favorite thing to do was to follow Lung Ruoxue around like a little tail. At that time, they had only thought that this man was unbelievably handsome, even though the two of them looked quite compatible from the outside. However, they were not completely clear about the strength of a monster. However, now that they saw how easily he had toyed with the Hong family's Immortal Realms messenger, they began to have some idea of the demon's strength. It seemed like the people around Lung Ruoxue could not be underestimated. Not only were these people extremely handsome, but they also liked to play the pig to eat the tiger, making people underestimate their strength. This kind of ending was fatal to anyone who was their enemy. Thinking up to this point, the Yin clan's first elder deeply rejoiced at his clan's wise decision. Otherwise, the fate of these people from the Hong clan would probably be the same as theirs. Imminent, the leader muttered to himself in shock. He had always regarded the people of the godly mainland as ants. He had never thought that there would be a day when he would be treated like an ant by someone from the godly mainland. This was a huge blow and humiliation to him, and he couldn't accept it. You're not just an ant. You're an ant that's about to die. The demon laughed coldly. Then his palms slowly moved from the man's body to his neck. Everyone heard a crisp caw sound and saw the man's head tilt to the side. He was no longer breathing. The demon threw the leader to the ground with a look of disgust. Then he threw a ball of flame-like, extremely hot, black, translucent object onto the leader's body. In an instant, the man turned into ashes. When everyone from the Hong family saw this scene, they felt a deep fear in their hearts. Oh my God, he had actually used his bare hands to break his own boss neck. This was truly too inconceivable. One should know that as one's strength increased, the toughness of one's body would also become tougher. It was almost impossible to strangle a person from the divine realm to death with just a pair of hands without using any divine skills or weapons. However, what they thought was impossible had actually happened right in front of their eyes. This made it impossible for them to deceive themselves even if they wanted to. This also caused the Hong family to be deeply afraid of him. In that instant, the members of the Hong family who were surrounding the demon all retreated secretly and tried to maintain a safe distance from him. Unfortunately, they had come here today. Lung Ruoxue and the others would not let them go back alive. Hence, no matter where they hid, they would not be able to survive. What are you guys doing? If I don't make a move, these ants will all be mine. The demon's starry eyes swept over Ziyu and the others, but the words he said made the Hong family's people's hearts palpitate with fear, and they secretly hated him. Hee hee, we were all stunned by your performance. Shuang laughed evilly. After he finished speaking, he immediately attacked the Hong family members around him. His huge and sharp claws gently scratched the air a few times, and 3 Hong family members died on the spot. There were 5 deep claw marks on their necks without exception, and blood flowed out from the claw marks like a spring. Seeing this, Ziyu and the others also attacked the Hong family members who were surrounding them. In fact, they were mainly afraid that if they were too late, their opponents would be robbed. Seeing them fighting to be the first to attack, Yin Xiao and the others naturally wouldn't just stand by and watch. After giving his subordinates a look, Yin Xiao's side began to fight. Right now, the only people who didn't make a move were the Yin clansmen. Seeing that the Hong clansmen had killed and injured countless people in an instant, some of the warlike Yin clansmen couldn't stand it anymore. The short-tempered one even said directly, "Great Elder, let's attack as well. Don't be in a hurry to make a move. The few of you, go and capture Yinling The rest of you, come with me to deal with the head of the Hong clan." After the Yin clan's first elder saw the situation on the stage, he gave a very self-aware order. Almost all of the Hong clan's people were from the firmament. With the Yin clan's current strength, it was naturally not suitable for them to fight them head-on. Moreover, he saw that Lung Ruoxue and the others had no difficulty dealing with the Hong clan's people from the firmament. Hence, he gave up the plan of ganging up on them and set his sights on the master of the Hong clan and Yinling instead. It could not be said that he was slacking off, but he felt that if the master of the Hong clan and Yinling saw that the situation was not good, they might take advantage of the chaos and escape. It wasn't a good thing not to tell them. So this time, he naturally had to keep a close eye on those two guys who like to cause trouble. We can't let them live. At the same time, the Yin clan, under the lead of their first elder, went straight to the somewhat panicked Hong clan master and Yinling and surrounded them in the middle. What do you want to do?" The master of the Hong family, who was looking for an opportunity to escape, was furious when he saw that he was completely surrounded. However, his tone at this time was as if he was a good girl who had met a lecher, full of helplessness and timidity. Chapter 1387, Bewildering Formation 1. "Don't you know what we want to do?" The Yin clan's first elder laughed evilly. His tone was as if he was teasing a lady from a good family. He spoke in a relaxed and casual manner. However, when the Hong clan's clan head heard it, he had mixed feelings in his heart. He had once regarded the Yin family as a piece of fat meat that he was determined to get and had deliberately planned to annex the Yin family. But now, he was going to become the Yin family's prisoner again. This made him feel very uncomfortable in his heart. How could this be? Why couldn't he exterminate these people even though he had invited the main family? He couldn't understand what went wrong. Don't act rashly. You've killed a member of the main family. The main family will never let you off. The head of the Hong family said, after some thought, "Master Hong, are you trying to use your family to threaten us? I've already killed him, so what if I don't let him go?" At this moment, Lung Ruoxue walked over with a faint smile. "That damned woman! I won't let you off." When Yinling saw Lung Ruoxue, she couldn't help but shout. She really hated this woman to the core. However, she was even angrier about that useless man from the Hong family. He couldn't even deal with these few people. No, she didn't want to be caught by them again. As long as she thought of the fox and the man's terrible means, her heart was particularly afraid. "Great Elder Yin, how do you plan to deal with this woman who has betrayed your Yin clan?" Lung Ruoxue ignored Yinling's words and directly asked the Yin clan's first elder. "I didn't betray the Yin clan, Great Elder. Don't listen to her nonsense." After hearing Lung Ruoxue's words, Yinling immediately shouted. Her beautiful face was filled with anxiety. "You colluded with the Hong clan to put us to death. Isn't that betraying the Yin clan? Do you really have to let the Yin family die in your hands before it can be considered a betrayal?" Lung Ruoxue laughed coldly and asked with a mocking expression, "Great Elder Grandpa, I only wanted to kill them, not the Yin clan. Although you've expelled me from the Yin clan, in my heart, I'm still a member of the Yin clan, whether alive or dead. How could I possibly betray the Yin clan? Great Elder Grandfather, we're a family. Don't listen to the instigations of outsiders." Seeing that the situation was not good, Yinling quickly played the emotional card. Her words still carried a trace of crying and grievance, and her beautiful eyes were filled with tears, making her look really pitiful. However, most of the Yin clan's people present knew Yinling's temperament. Therefore, even if she pretended to be pitiful, even if she wanted to die wisely, the Yin clan's people present did not believe her. From this, it could be seen how bad Yinling's popularity was, and her act of showing weakness seemed to have been used in the wrong place. Great Elder Grandpa, you've watched me grow up. Seeing that the Yin family didn't respond for a long time, Yin Ling said again, "That's right. I've watched you grow up. You were so pure and cute when you were young. But how did you become like this?" The Yin clan's first elder said with a look of disappointment. He was very disappointed, especially when he saw that Yin Ling had actually colluded with the Hong family. The anger in his heart could not be described with words, and Yin Ling indeed wanted to kill them as well. Therefore, he really did not dare to keep such a venomous Yin family member in this world. "Great Elder Yin, you can clean up your own mess. They'll take care of the Hong family head." Seeing through the Yin clan's first elder's thoughts, Lung Ruoxua chuckled as she distributed the two of them. "All right." The Yin clan's great elder nodded, and then gave a look to the Yin clan's people beside him. The Yin clan's people who received the great elder's look immediately stepped forward and lifted Yin Ling up by her collar like a little chick. The Hong family head didn't dare to say a word when he saw this scene. He could already see from the corner of his eye that most of the Hong family members he had brought with him were dead. This scene made the fear in his heart slowly deepen. These people were too ruthless. They were not human. The head of the Hong family couldn't help but shout in his heart. However, it was a pity that no one could hear his inner thoughts. Lung Ruoxue, who could have let Qing Ju read her mind, was not interested in knowing what he was thinking. "Ling you should be a good person in your next life." After the Yin clan's great elder finished speaking, a fiery red light was released from his hand. Then, Yin Ling who had no power to resist, died. She didn't even struggle and died very peacefully. When Lung Ruoxue saw this scene, she knew that the Yin clan's first elder was still somewhat soft-hearted. Otherwise, he wouldn't have allowed Yin Ling to die so easily. Killing her so easily was really letting her off too easily. However, since she had said that Yin Ling would be dealt with by the Yin clan, she naturally wouldn't interfere with their actions. As for this Master Hong, it's not easy to die now, since he dared to use her as a reward. He had to be prepared for her revenge. Besides, not to mention that he would not let him die so easily. Even the demon would not want him to die too easily. "Shuer, leave this Master Hong to me." The demon walked over and said with a smile that was not a smile, "No, I don't want to give it to you. Don't mess around. The Hong family won't let you off." When a master of the Hong family heard the demon's words, he was so scared that he stuttered. "Whoa, this guy is really too ruthless." He actually strangled someone from the firmament to death. When he thought about the demon's terrifying methods, he felt extremely regretful. Were his eyes covered in shit? He had actually mistaken a fierce wolf for a weak little rabbit. This was definitely his biggest miscalculation. Otherwise, how could he be so miserable? "Don't be afraid. He'll be gentle." The evil man smiled charmingly, but the coldness on his body only increased. Hearing the demon's words, Lung Ruoxue and the others were all speechless. These words really made their imaginations run wild. However, they naturally wouldn't say it out loud at this time, in case they were also unlucky. After the demon finished speaking, he stretched out his long arm and mimicked the way the Yin clan's people did previously. He lifted the Hong clan's clan head to his eyes like he was carrying a little chick and said with a faint smile, "Your wife has already left, don't worry. They'll let you accompany her, but we have to have a good chat before you go." Then, the evildoer grabbed the collar of the Hong family's master and dragged him into a tent. Not long after, painful moans and screams could be heard from the tent. In Xiao and the others were curious, but no matter how curious they were, they didn't dare to go in to see what was going on. They didn't want to see what they shouldn't see and be killed by the evildoer. Chapter 1388. Bewildering Formation 2. Therefore, they could only suppress the throbbing curiosity in their hearts and vent all the pain of not being able to find out the truth on the Hong family members who were not completely dead yet. After a long time, the sounds in the tent became weaker and weaker. All the Hong family members present had been killed by Yin Xiao and the rest. Then, they saw the demon dragging the Hong family head out of the tent by his collar. Master Hong was dragged in and out. In other words, Master Hong was no longer alive. After the evildoer threw Master Hong on the ground, he walked to Lung Ruoxue and said, "Shua, since these people are all dead, if we let them lie here and scare the passers-by, we will feel guilty." In other words, he was saying that he could destroy these people's corpses and get rid of all traces. After all, they had done this kind of thing many times in the past. Yes, Lung Ruoxue nodded. A small flame with a dark purple glow appeared on her fingertips. The temperature of the flame was extremely high. The moment it appeared, it dried up the moisture in the surrounding 100 miles. When it was thrown onto the bodies of the Hong family members, their bodies evaporated like water vapor without exception. Seeing this, Yin Xiao and the Yin clan's great elder were both shocked. Their subordinates were also dumbfounded. What kind of flame was this? The temperature was so high that they could not stand it any longer. What they did not know was that she had even controlled the temperature of the flames on purpose, afraid that the Yin and Yin families would not be able to adapt to it. However, even Ziyu and the rest who knew that the temperature of Lung Ruoxue's flames was extremely high, they had subconsciously stayed away from the scope of the flames, especially Shuering. She was afraid that her beautiful long hair would be burned again. So the moment she saw the flames, she immediately hid far away. After everything was settled, Lung Ruoxue and the rest bade farewell to the Yin clan's first elder. The group headed towards the Nightmare Forest. As the Yin clan's first elder was in a hurry to return and report everything to the clan head, he did not hold them back. He only said that he would pay a visit to the Nightmare Forest when he had the time before leaving in a hurry. At the same time, in the main residence of the Hong family in Hong City, the first elder of the Hong family stood in the ancestral hall with a sorrowful expression. He looked at the life command token that had already shattered in front of him, and his heart ached faintly. One had to know that he had spent a large sum of money to redeem a good portion of those who had died from the Yin family. However, because of hatred, not only had they lost their lives, but they had also caused the Hong family to suffer heavy losses. In a few hundred years, the Hong family on the godly mainland would not be able to recover. At the thought of this, he could not help but feel resentful towards his family head, who had also died. If it wasn't for the family head not listening to his advice and insisting on dealing with Lung Ruoxue and the others, even imprisoning him, how would the Hong family have lost both their wealth and manpower? Once the family head died, the Hong family would be without a leader. Therefore, the elders who were left behind by the family head to watch over him had no choice but to let him out and ask him to take care of the household. AI, housework. How could the Hong family still have any domestic affairs to speak of? The entire Hong family was in a state of panic because of the death of the family head and some elders. They were afraid that the other party would come to the door and destroy them together. Therefore, the Hong family members at this time had no intention of staying in Hong City. Some of them had already left, and some of them had hidden. The only person accompanying him in the main residence was actually that brainless Elder Shan. And Elder Shan was also the only one who would still visit his Hong family members when he was imprisoned by the family head. Thinking about the fickleness of human relationships these days, the first elder of the Hong family was even more open-minded. Hatred was endless, and he couldn't even think about avenging the head of the Hong family and the others. This was not because he was timid or not as good as others, but because he felt that as a person from the divine realm, he should be mentally prepared to die at any time. If he went to seek revenge the moment someone in his family died, how many people would die in the divine realm every day? The consequences of this endless revenge would slowly form a cycle and fall into a dead end. First Elder, no matter what you want to do, I will support you. Standing behind the first elder of the Hong family, Elder Shan, who had not spoken for a long time, said. The first elder of Hong clan turned around as he patted Elder Shan's shoulder. Although he didn't express his gratitude, he looked pretty pleasant. At this moment, he had someone's support. What nice feeling. Elder Shan, you've worked hard these days. After looking at Elder Shan for a long while, the first elder of the Hong family finally spoke. It's not hard, Elder Shan said, a little flattered. Ever since the great elder found out that he had single-handedly created the scandal between him and the Yin clan's great elder, he had not brought him to see him. However, the great elder had obviously been treating him more well these days, which made him very excited. Great elder, there are only the two of us in the main residence now. What are your thoughts? The first elder of the Hong family asked. He knew that after the death of the master, some people in the Hong family had the idea of splitting the family. He had not allowed this at first, but he had thought it through. Since those people wanted to split the family, then so be it. He couldn't be bothered with them anymore, but this matter shouldn't be known by the main family. Otherwise, the main family wouldn't allow it. First elder, we can't split. If the main clan were to find out about this, the consequences would be severe. Elder Shan frowned as he thought about it seriously. His branch of the Hong family was originally the main family's representative in the divine mainland. If their branch family didn't inform the main family, and the main family found out, they would definitely be punished. Now that the Hong family isn't united, it's not a bad idea to move out. Those who still have feelings for the main residence can continue to live there. After all, this is the main residence of the Hong family in the godly land. As for those who have other plans, give them some money and let them leave Hong City. This way, we'll still be the main family of the Hong family on the divine continent, and we won't go against the purpose of the main family in the divine world. The first elder of the Hong family revealed his thoughts. Great elder, you mean that we're still us, but some of our clansmen have gone out to live alone? Elder Shan understood the great elder's meaning and confirmed. Yes, other than the clansmen who have left to live alone, we won't let outsiders know that our Hong family has already split. The first elder of the Hong family said. Chapter 1389. Bewildering Formation 3. Great Elder, since you've already decided, well, do as you say. I have no objections. Elder Shan said. Elder Shan, it'll have to trouble you to handle this matter. It's not convenient for me to speak up about the separation of the family. I can only pretend that I don't know about it. Moreover, you must be very careful and tell them not to tell anyone that the Hong family is already separated. Otherwise, they will bear the consequences. The first elder of the Hong family reminded. Don't worry, Grand Elder. I know what to do. After Elder Shan finished speaking, he gave a slight bow to the first elder of the Hong family and left the ancestral hall. The Hong family was secretly splitting up. At this time, Lung Ruoxue and the others had arrived at Yanbei City. They went to the city lord's mansion to greet Yin Kun and told him what had happened during this period of time. After that, she brought Yin Xiao and the others into the nightmare forest. Walking in a nightmare forest and breathing in the fresh air, Yin Xiao felt a sense of relaxation and peace that he had never felt before. As Lung Ruoxue and the rest arrived at the main residence that they had settled down on a mountain, Yin Xiao and the rest stayed there temporarily. The evildoer felt extremely uncomfortable seeing people sticking themselves in between his shuer and acting as a 1,000-watt light bulb. However, Shuer was the one who invited them, and he couldn't chase them away, so he was extremely depressed. Yin Xiao seemed to know the evildoer's thoughts and appeared in front of them more frequently. Everyone had agreed to go hunting together. Yin Xiao and the rest, who were already prepared, followed Lung Ruoxue and the others into the forest. However, as they walked, they realized that they had lost their way. At this moment, Lung Ruoxue and the others had disappeared too. What was going on? Could it be that the rabbits they encountered just now were the bait they set up to abandon them here? Yin Xiao couldn't help but let his thoughts run wild. In fact, he had guessed correctly. The evildoer thought that he was too much of an eyesore, so he used the group of rabbits that ran into their sight to lure the tiger away from the mountain. Originally, they had wanted to chase after the group of rabbits together. However, the evildoer who was walking at the back had pulled Lung Ruoxue away when no one was paying attention. As for Ziyu and the rest, they had lived in the forest for a long time, so they were naturally not trapped by the maze in the forest. However, Yin Xiao and the rest were different. It was their first time here, and they were too focused on chasing after the rabbits. As a result, they were accidentally separated from Ziyu and the rest. Yin Xiao and the rest, who were not very familiar with the forest, naturally lost their way. Young master, we're lost. There seems to be a maze formation here. After observing it carefully, Uncle Zhong came to an important conclusion. A bewildering formation? Could it be that Schwerer and the others set it up? Yin Xiao's face was filled with curiosity. He wasn't dejected because he knew that Schwerer would definitely send someone to find them, so he wasn't worried at all. I don't know about that. However, we can't leave now. We can only wait for Miss Lung and the others to come and find us. Uncle Zhong said calmly. Well, since we're here, let's take things as they are. In that case, let's take a good look around here. I feel that this bewildering formation seems to be quite large. Yin Xiao said with a face full of anticipation. The so-called bewildering formation was similar to a maze. They both had to find the exit. Otherwise, they would be trapped in the bewildering formation forever. Young master, be careful. Although there are formations here, they're all based on the actual situation of the place where the formation is set up. Thus, other than not being able to leave, everything here is real and there's a considerable amount of danger, so we must be on high alert. Uncle Zhong, who had a slight understanding of formations, recalled the characteristics of a bewildering formation and warned him very cautiously. Yes, Yin Xiao and the others nodded, and everyone carefully strolled through the maze. There was no lack of food in the maze because there were many small animals trapped in the maze. However, the small animals were quite adaptable and did not panic because they could not get out. After seeing Yin Xiao and the others, they continued to eat their food unhurriedly, while some were sleeping in their caves. As it was late autumn, the weather was rather cold. As a result, some of the beasts that were afraid of the cold had already chosen to sleep in their own caves. As for those beasts that were loitering outside, they did not have much intelligence and had a lower sense of danger. These beasts were also their best food choices. After wandering around the maze for a while, Yin Xiao and the rest sat on the ground. After starting a fire, they placed the rabbit and turkey meat that had been cleaned long ago on the fire to roast. Although the temperature inside the maze was not much different from the outside, the beasts living inside were obviously more comfortable. They had few natural enemies and would probably only eat and sleep every day. Therefore, these low-level beasts were all fat and strong. They were roasted on the fire for a while. The oil began to sizzle and drip onto the fire, creating small sparks. Yin Xiao's heart was filled with satisfaction as he smelled the meat's fragrance. Young master, if young Lady Lung can't find us tonight, we can only spend the night here. After supper, Uncle Zhong warned Zhang Tai as he watched the gradually darkening sky. Uncle Zhong, tell them to set up the tents. I guess we'll have to spend the night here. Yin Xiao said. That jealous man would not let Xue find them so easily. Therefore, he resigned himself to his fate. All right, he said. Yes, sir, Uncle Zhong replied, and then went to instruct his subordinates. Yin Xiao looked at the sky that was slowly turning dark and sat by the fire in a daze. From afar, Uncle Zhong saw his young master's condition and tactfully did not disturb him. Instead, he casually found a place to sit down and carefully observed Yin Xiao's reaction in secret. Yin Xiao, who was lost in his own thoughts, felt a bright gaze on him. He felt helpless and couldn't help but say, Uncle Zhong, why do you keep your eyes on me? In fact, there was one more thing that he didn't say in his heart, and that was, Uncle Zhong, your gaze makes my pear grow big. Young master, you're not young anymore. It's time for you to start a family. Uncle Zhong thought that his young master felt lonely after seeing them in pairs. Therefore, he couldn't help but put it in a serious way. Family? Forget it. Uncle Zhong, you know that I'm used to being free. Besides, I don't like those women who are as delicate as flowers. I don't have the time to coax them. Yin Xiao said with a headache. Then what kind of girl do you like? Tell Uncle Zhong. Uncle Zhong will keep an eye out for you. Uncle Zhong asked with an expectant look. Although he had watched the young master grow up, he didn't know what the young master was thinking about, because the young master always greeted people with a smile and buried all his thoughts in his heart. If you can find me someone like Xue, I might consider it. Yin Xiao made it difficult for him. He knew that Uncle Zhong must have been incited by his grandfather to tell him this. Otherwise, Uncle Zhong wouldn't say this for no reason. Young master wanted to find someone as beautiful as Miss Lung, or strength? Uncle Zhong said with a troubled expression. He had lived in the firmament for many years and had a very high status in the Yin clan. He was also the most trusted person by the clan head's side. Hence, he had seen many young ladies from the direct line of descent from the top clans. However, no matter how much he thought about it, he had never thought that they would be on par with Lung Ruoxue. Those ladies seemed a little childish in front of Lung Ruoxue. Appearance, strength, and temperament must all be the same. If Uncle Zhong can find them, he'll marry and have a family as you wish. Yin Xiao promised, feeling proud of his own intelligence. He had arranged a task for Uncle Zhong, so Uncle Zhong didn't have time to target him. Actually, the reason why he wanted his future wife to be like Lung Ruoxue was just to find an excuse. He didn't want Uncle Zhong to be entrusted by others to nag about his marriage. He knew very well that it was impossible for Uncle Zhong to find a woman like Lung Ruoxue. After all, a woman like Lung Ruoxue was definitely one of a kind in this world. His request would definitely reach his grandfather's ears. He had no choice but to give up. Young master, aren't you making things difficult for your subordinates? I'm afraid that you might not be able to find someone with young Lady Lung's appearance and temperament, even if you search the entire divine realm. As for someone with a similar strength to young Lady Lung, it would be easier. As Uncle Zhong was valued by his master, he was naturally very smart. How could he not hear the young master's intention to shirk responsibility? Uncle Zhong, do you know Shui'er's real battle strength? Do you really think they are as good as their appearance? Yin Xiao raised his brows and asked. Uncle Zhong became dumbfounded. Yup. How could he forget that those people like to pretend to be pigs to eat tigers? It seemed that even if he wanted to find someone with the same strength as Miss Lung, there would be no chance. Sigh. He was a little dejected. Uncle Zhong, don't worry about my marriage, alas. I can only blame myself for knowing Shui'er for such a short time. We're not fated to be together. Yin Xiao pretended to be sad as he spoke. In fact, although he admired Shui'er, it was more of admiration because he knew that an outstanding woman like Shui'er was not someone ordinary men could control. Moreover, she already had someone she liked, so naturally, he would not do anything to snatch her away. More importantly, he could not take her away. That evil man was like a beast protecting its food, guarding Shui'er's side every day. Which man could get close to Shui'er? In addition, he had personally witnessed the evil man's murderous aura and shocking aura. He had no other thoughts. Now, he was already very satisfied that Shui'er could call him Big Brother Yin. He did not dare to expect too much, because his mother had once said that one should know how to be content with what they have. Don't covet things that don't belong to you. That is the beginning of destruction. He had always kept his mother's wise words in mind. Young master, although Miss Lung is very outstanding, she really doesn't suit you. Uncle Zhong comforted his young master at once when he saw his young master was a bit sad. Uncle Zhong, don't urge me to get married in the future. I don't have that intention for the time being. Yin Xiao's face was filled with worry as he spoke. Chapter 1390. The Mysterious Valley 1. Good. This subordinate will not mention it again. Young master, don't worry. Uncle Zhong hurriedly promised as he felt pretty guilty inside. He had accidentally touched on the young master's sad matter. Seeing that he had achieved his goal, Yin Xiao was secretly overjoyed. Now, Uncle Zhong would not keep nagging him. He could finally have some peace. Actually, his words were half true and half false. It was true that he admired Shui'er and was a bit sad. However, it was not as serious as what Uncle Zhong imagined. After all, he had long adjusted his mentality and recognized a relationship between him and Shui'er. Therefore, of course, he would not seek for trouble and bring trouble to others. Perhaps this was the difference between men and women in love. Of course, not all men could be so rational. Not all women would be as demanding as the Hong sisters and Yin Ling. Following that, Uncle Zhong changed the topic and talked about the situation of the divine realm. However, he kept mentioning a name, which made Yin Xiao a little uncomfortable. Yin Xiao furrowed his brows helplessly. He felt extremely helpless. Woo! Uncle Zhong must have done it on purpose. He was using that person's name to disgust him. Uncle Zhong, who had been talking nonstop, saw Yin Xiao's expression and laughed in his heart. He did it on purpose. Who asked the young master to deliberately make things difficult for him? Uncle Zhong, it's getting late. I'm going to sleep. Yin Xiao said hurriedly before running into his tent, as if he was fleeing for his life. Is Miss Lan that scary? She's your cousin. Uncle Zhong couldn't help but mutter to himself as he watched Yin Xiao's back. In reality, the people of the firmament had very low requirements for sleep. Even though they would feel tired, they did not need to sleep every day. However, after spending time with Lung Ruoxue and the others, they seemed to have been infected by it and had developed the habit of sleeping every day. After leaving the two guardians of the night, Uncle Zhong also entered the tent. At the same time, Lung Ruoxue had also noticed that Brother Yin and the rest had fallen into a maze. Initially, she wanted to bring them out immediately. However, when she saw the demon acting pitiful again, her heart softened and she allowed him to do as he wished. After that, the demon's eyes were all smiles. Shuer, they're all from the divine world. You don't have to worry about their safety. You should know that Uncle Zhong has hidden his true strength. In a room of the two, the demon said disapprovingly. Don't look at Uncle Zhong beside Yin Xiao. He always looked silly and honest, but in fact, he was a real old fox. Yes, evildoers. Let's go and pick them up tomorrow morning. Lung Ruoxue tried to negotiate. After all, Brother Yin was a guest that she had invited. It didn't seem too good to trap a guest in a maze. Shuer, let's keep observing. Maybe he's having fun. The demon laughed evilly. He knew that apart from training, Yin Xiao and the rest had come to the divine mainland to explore. Therefore, the forest was definitely one of their favorite places. Being trapped in a bewildering formation and unable to walk out. How can I enjoy it? The maze isn't very big. We'll reach the end in 2 days at most. Lung Ruoxue said helplessly. She didn't think that Big Brother Yin and the others would be enjoying themselves. Then we should at least let them stay in the bewildering array for 2 days. Otherwise, they won't be able to finish their tour. The demon suggested. After hearing the demon's words, Lung Ruoxue's face was filled with black lines. Tour? Who would be in the mood to explore when trapped in a bewildering formation? Shui, let's not talk about that guy anymore. It's getting late. The demon said seriously, determined to defend his rights. Okay, then go to sleep. Lung Ruoxue sighed. The next morning, after Yin Xiao and the others had their breakfast, they wandered around the maze. According to Uncle Zhong's suggestion, it was best for them to wait at a fixed place for Miss Lung and the others to come and rescue them, in case they couldn't find them. However, Yin Xiao wanted to take a good look around the maze. After all, this was the first time he had seen the maze in his life. Along the way, Yin Xiao and the others left marks wherever they went. This was also to prevent them from not being able to return to the place where they had set up camp last night. After all, their tents were still there. Young master, from the looks of it, this maze formation wasn't small. We definitely won't be able to finish it in a day. Uncle Zhong sighed. It wasn't that he had never seen a bewildering formation before, but it was the first time he had seen such a large one. He really didn't know who had set up this bewildering formation. To be able to set up a bewildering formation of this size, the person's attainments and formation techniques were absolutely top-notch. It's fine. Didn't we leave a mark? If we can't finish today, we'll continue tomorrow. Yin Xiao couldn't help but say, Yes, young master. Then I'll go back today. Looking at the weather, it might rain soon. Uncle Zhong warned Zhang Tai as he watched the gloomy weather. Then let's go back. This time, Yin Xiao did not object. Yin Xiao and the others followed the markings they left behind, and just as they walked back to the campsite, heavy rain poured down from the sky. Everyone quickly hid in their tents. Through the skylight of the tent, he could see the huge raindrops that were bubbling outside. Yin Xiao's mood was extremely relaxed. drinking hot tea and listening to the sound of the rain outside. This kind of life was quite pleasant. However, he didn't want to be trapped in the maze for too long, because that could kill him. However, he had also guessed that the devilish man wouldn't ask Schwer to find him so quickly, so he was very calm. "Young master, it's a good thing we came back in time," Uncle Zhong said. Uncle Zhong, I heard that it feels very good to sleep on rainy days. How about going to bed too?" Yin Xiao suggested. Young master, it's broad daylight now," Uncle Zhong helplessly said with black lines on his forehead. "But it's raining outside now. What else can I do if not sleep?" Yin Xiao's face was filled with question marks. Uncle Zhong didn't know how to answer Zhang Tai's question. In the bewildering array and in the rain, what else could he do if not sleep? "Young master, then go to sleep," Uncle Zhong said in a soft voice, feeling helpless. After hearing Uncle Zhong's words, Yin Xiao immediately lay down. He had never slept in the rain before. He could finally experience it today. Chapter 1391, The Mysterious Valley, 2. However, when the rain passed and Yin Xiao woke up, he found that the one beside him was not Uncle Zhong, but a furry little beast. The little beast was curled into a half-sphere, and its head was buried under its body. Judging from its size, it should not be very big. However, the little beast's fur was still half wet and stuck to him, so his clothes were also affected. The wet and sticky feeling made him very uncomfortable. "Uncle Zhong," Yin Xiao extended a finger and poked the little beastie's body. He was still calling Uncle Zhong, but he was referring to this little beastie. At the same time, he couldn't help but think, how did Uncle Zhong become a little beastie? Is Uncle Zhong not a human being? Just as Yin Xiao's imagination was running wild, the real Uncle Zhong walked in. Uncle Zhong happened to hear Yin Xiao calling the little beast Uncle Zhong, who was snuggling up to him. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he stood still. He wanted to see what else the young master would say. "Uncle Zhong, how did you turn into a little beast? Are you not human?" Seeing that Uncle Zhong didn't respond for a long time, Yin Xiao couldn't help but say what he was thinking. After hearing that, Uncle Zhong couldn't help but burst out laughing. When Yin Xiao heard the laughter, he quickly turned his head and saw the Uncle Zhong from his memory standing at the door, looking at him with a helpless smile. Uncle Zhong. Seeing Uncle Zhong in person, Yin Xiao knew that he had made a huge mistake. His face instantly turned red from head to toe. At this moment, he really wanted to find a hole to hide in. How could he do such an embarrassing thing? His words were heard by Uncle Zhong. He was too ashamed to face anyone. Young master, Uncle Zhong is not a non-human being." Uncle Zhong was neither angry nor annoyed, but he said happily. It was rare to see such a lovely appearance of a young master, so of course he had to tease him. "Uncle Zhong." Yin Xiao felt so embarrassed that he couldn't face anyone anymore. However, what was up with this little beast that had caused him to misunderstand? His face was full of question marks. "Who is it?" Yin Xiao pointed at little beastie. "I don't know. I don't even know how it got in." Uncle Zhong shrugged as he said helplessly, What do we do now?" Yin Xiao was speechless. Not only was the little beast's fur half wet, but its body was also dirty. His clothes were not spared either. "They'll throw it out," Uncle Zhong said after thinking for a while. Although he didn't know how this little beast came in, he thought it must be to take shelter from the rain. Now that the rain had passed, of course, it was unnecessary for this little guy to stay here. He even called it Uncle Zhong. After saying that, Uncle Zhong walked to the little beastie's side and was about to pick it up and take it out of the tent. Unexpectedly, the curled-up little beastie suddenly raised its head and opened its eyes to look at them. Uncle Zhong became stunned at a stroke because this little beast had a pair of fiery eyes, which were as beautiful as 2 pieces of top-quality rubies. Additionally, its eyes were crystal clear and misty. Apparently, it had heard all the words between Uncle Zhong and the young master. For a moment, Uncle Zhong didn't know what to do. "Little fellow, since you're awake, why don't you tell us where you came from? Why are you in my tent?" Yin Xiao looked at the pitiful, ruby-like eyes and hardened his heart. This little beast's appearance was too strange, so he had to find out. The little beastie blinked its eyes, but didn't say anything. Little thing, it's useless to pretend to be deaf. Inshao looked at little beastie, who was staring at them without saying a word, and reminded, "Young master, this little fellow probably can't speak yet." Uncle Zhong said after observing it for a while. Uncle Zhong's words were immediately answered by little beastie. It nodded its head excitedly, its eyes glimmering with light, showing its excitement. It seems that Uncle Zhong is right. Inshao said helplessly when he saw the little beastie's fawning look. Was a beastie that couldn't speak considered a young one? In the immortal realm, as long as a young beast with a noble bloodline was born, the weakest one was basically a holy beast, and looking at the clever appearance of this little beast, it naturally couldn't be the lowest level spirit beast, so it was really inconceivable that it couldn't speak and was different from the rest. Little beastie nodded its head at Inshao's words. "Uncle Zhong, what should we do with this little beast?" Inshao looked at Uncle Zhong and asked. The moment it heard the word handle, the little beastie clutched Inshao's sleeve tightly, its fiery red eyes revealing a pleading look. "There's no point in acting pitiful. We can't keep you here." Inshao said, sigh. He didn't have the habit of taking care of children. Although Beastie was very independent from a young age and almost didn't need special care, it was still a very troublesome thing to take care of an underage little beast of unknown species. After hearing Inshao's words, the little beastie actually began to cry. Bean-sized teardrops kept rolling down from its beautiful red eyes. Don't cry," Inshao said helplessly. Damn it, if it cried like this, people who didn't know the inside story would think that he had bullied this little beast. Fortunately, there were no outsiders here. Otherwise, his reputation would be in jeopardy. "Young master, let's keep it for the time being. When we leave, we'll just give it to Miss Long," Uncle Zhong suggested helplessly. They did not have a fixed residence, so it was really not suitable for them to bring such a small beast on the road. Moreover, he had observed it for a long time, but could not figure out what kind of species this fox-like little beast was. It was really too strange. Therefore, he wanted to keep this little beast for further observation. With Uncle Zhong's words, the little beastie that had suddenly appeared was left behind. After knowing that it wouldn't be driven away, the little beastie's mood became more relaxed, and it stuck even closer to Inshao. Wherever Inshao went, the little beast would follow. It did not leave his side at all. After Inshao ordered his men to clean the little beast, he was surprised to find that it was quite beautiful. It had long, snow-white fur and a pair of ruby-like eyes, making it stand out. After being trapped in the bewildering formation for 3 days, they had already walked around the entire formation. However, none of them were familiar with the formation. Thus, even if they walked through the entire formation, they could not find the formation's eye, and naturally could not leave the bewildering formation. Chapter 1392, The Mysterious Valley, 3. Sitting by the fire, Inshao didn't say a word. However, his heart was filled with Lung Ruoxu's forsaking of friends after seeing a lover. Whoa, why hasn't Shui come to find him yet? Could she have forgotten about them? Little Beastie, who had been with Inshao for a few days, could feel its temporary master's low mood. It jumped into his arms and rubbed against him to comfort him. Then, it jumped away from Inshao's arms and ran a few steps forward. It turned around and looked at Inshao and the others. "Haven't you spun enough? You still want to go out?" Inshao looked at Little Beastie, who clearly wanted them to follow him, and said helplessly. Little Beastie nodded and stared at Inshao with its fiery red eyes. "Little guy, it's going to get dark soon, so we're not going out today," Inshao reminded. Xiao Budian was the name he had given this little beast. Who asked it to be so small? Although Little Beastie had protested, he had ignored it. Seeing this, Little Beastie didn't give up and ran back to Inshao's side. It bit his pants and dragged him forward. Looking at the Little Beastie's reluctance to part, Uncle Zhong smiled helplessly and said, "Young master, since the little guy is so persistent, he might have discovered something. Why don't we follow him and take a look?" All right then. With Uncle Zhong interceding for Xiao Buddy and In Xiao naturally wouldn't refuse. When the little beastie heard its temporary master agree, it meowed at Uncle Zhong, as if to say, "Thank you for interceding for me. Ha ha ha. This little one is quite interesting." Uncle Zhong said with a big smile at the sight of Xiao Buddy and, "Yup, this little fellow is very cunning." In Xiao said helplessly, "Don't think that this little thing can't talk. She's very smart." Following that, Xiao Buddy walked in front and led the way while In Xiao and the rest followed behind. Xiao Buddy brought In Xiao and the others to a cave that was half the height of a person. He indicated for them to enter while he ran in first. "Little guy, don't run around." Seeing Xiao Buddy run in Xiao hurriedly called out, "Young master, let's go in and take a look." Uncle Zhong said, "Yes." Xiao nodded his head. Even though he had not spent much time with Xiao Buddy he still liked this little thing. If he were to encounter any danger in the cave, his heart would still ache for him. Immediately after, Xiao left 2 subordinates outside the cave to receive them, while he brought Uncle Zhong and the others into the cave. The 2 loyal subordinates stood guard outside the cave. However, Xiao and the others did not come out until the next morning. This made the 2 of them anxious. Why haven't the young master and the others returned yet? It's been an entire night. A subordinate said, "They'll go in and take a look. You stay here and guard." After another subordinate finished speaking, he was about to walk into the cave. "Wait, they'll go with you," the previous subordinate said. He was not willing to stay outside alone in fear. Moreover, he did not dare to imagine how furious the family head would be if something happened to the young master and the others. He was afraid that he would not be able to explain it to the family head even if he died. "If we both go in, who's going to report to the master?" The subordinate who was about to go in warned with his eyes wide open. "Then be careful," the subordinate from before warned. "Yes." The subordinate who was about to enter nodded. However, before he could enter, he heard a familiar voice. Where did Big Brother In go? Just as Lung Ruoxue finished her sentence, she had already arrived in front of them. She brought the demon and the rest into the maze to look for Brother In and the rest. However, they only saw the tents that they had set up, but they were nowhere to be seen. After searching for a while, they only found Brother In's 2 subordinates. Miss Lung, the young master, and Uncle Zhong brought people into this cave. Before they went in, the young master ordered US to guard here. However, it has been a night and they have not come out. One of his subordinates explained worriedly. After hearing what Brother In's subordinate said, Lung Ruoxue lifted her beautiful eyes and sized up the unremarkable cave. From the outside, there was nothing special about this small cave. Furthermore, it was obvious that it had been abandoned for a long time. Why did Brother In suddenly come here? She really couldn't understand it. Big Brother In, what are you doing in this cave? Lung Ruoxue asked with a face full of question marks. Young master didn't want to go in at first. It was a small beast that brought us here. That small beast ran in, and young master and the others followed it in. The subordinate explained, Aren't there many little beasts here? Is it not enough for you? Lung Ruoxue's beautiful face was filled with puzzlement. She had lost her way while chasing after her prey. In her memory, no one else had ever done such a thing except for Big Brother In. It's not a little beastie that eats. It's a little beast that the young master has adopted. The In family subordinates saw that Lung Ruoxue had misunderstood and quickly explained. Oh, Lung Ruoxue finally understood. It seemed that Brother In and the others were really enjoying themselves, as the evildoer said. He was trapped in the bewildering formation, but he still had the heart to take care of the little beastie. Miss Lung, young master, and the rest have gone in for a long time and have not come out. What should we do? The In family subordinate asked helplessly. Let's go in and take a look. Lung Ruoxue glanced at the demon. Then let's go in together. The other subordinate hurriedly said. And Lung Ruoxue nodded and pulled the demon in. The light in the cave was very dim, and the smell of dry soil inside reminded everyone that this place had been deserted for a long time. Lung Ruoxue lit up a flame and lit up the cave in an instant. It was only then that everyone realized that there were many totems carved on the stone walls of the cave. Each of the totems had a few beasts that looked like foxes carved on it. These beasts were huge in size, and although they had different forms, they all looked extremely arrogant. Their eyes had an aura that seemed to look down on the world. The beasts on the totems were of different colors, but they all had one thing in common. That was, every beastie had a pair of beautiful fiery red eyes. If she hadn't come here, Lung Roashue would never have thought that there would be a place like this in her territory. If she wasn't wrong, there should have been a group of beasts living here. From the looks of it, the beasts that had once lived here had either moved away or gone extinct. Other than that, there was no other possibility. Chapter 1393, The Mysterious Valley. Do you guys know what kind of beastie this is? Lung Roashua asked Ziyu and the others as she observed the stone wall. She looks like a fox. The moon I said as it looked at Shuang. They're not foxes. Shuang was very certain. Although the beasts on the stone walls were only totems, they gave off an extremely powerful aura. The fox race rarely had such an aura. They were more skilled in charm and confusion techniques. Then what are they? Yu Jing's face was filled with curiosity. As a soul-gnawing beast with inherited memories, she was extremely ashamed, because she did not recognize these beasts on the stone wall. In her eyes, they were all foxes. Young Miss Lung, the beast on this stone wall is a little similar to the little beast that brought my young master and the others in. At this time, the Yin family's subordinate finally spoke after recovering from his shock. Are you sure? Lung Roashue raised her brows and asked calmly. Yes. However, the little beast that brought young master and the others here should not be an adult yet. It doesn't have the aura that these beasts in the totems have. The subordinate said, since this is the little beast territory, let's continue walking in. The demon suggested after hearing the Yin family's subordinate's words. All right, Lung Ruashue replied. Then, the group continued to walk deeper into the cave. Unknowingly, they walked further and further, and there were more and more totems on the stone walls. However, they were all about the beast race. Although the totems were carved very vividly, there were many that they could not understand. After walking for an unknown distance, Lung Ruashue and the rest finally arrived before a huge golden door. Looking at the tightly shut golden door, Lung Ruashue hesitated for a moment. In the end, she pushed the door open and walked in, while the others followed closely behind. With a flash of white light, Lung Ruashue and the rest were transported to a courtyard. At this moment, everyone suddenly realized that the golden door was actually a transportation array. But where were they? They were currently in a valley filled with the chirping of birds and the fragrance of flowers. The scenery in the valley was extremely beautiful, and the climate was pleasant. The warm and gentle wind blew on everyone's bodies, making them feel extremely comfortable. Not only that, but the little beasts in the valley didn't seem to be afraid of people. After seeing them, they only sniffed them curiously and ignored them. Moreover, this valley was very large, and one cannot see the end of it. Let's go over there and look for it. Lung Ruashue pointed to a small path on her left. Even though she did not know if Brother Ian and the rest were in the valley, they could not return empty-handed. Furthermore, the strange thing was that Green Vessel was unable to monitor this place. Naturally, it would be impossible for them to investigate the situation here. Yes, no one had any objections to Lung Ruakshu's decision. The group walked along the small path on the left. Lung Ruashue saw that there were quite a number of herbs here, so she moved Chocho out of her bracelet. Once Chocho was out, it flew around the valley very happily. However, when it encountered precious natural treasures, it would not forget to remind them. Miss, this place is so big. When can we reach the end? After a long time, Yuqing couldn't help but complain. Calm down. We'll be at the end soon. Lung Ruashue consoled him helplessly. Actually, she didn't know how long she had been waiting for them to leave. However, it was a good thing that there were many herbs that she really needed growing here. Otherwise, she would have been frustrated as well. Not long after Lung Ruashue finished speaking, A house appeared before everyone's eyes, as if to verify her words. The exterior of the house was made entirely of stone, but the interior was rather luxurious. The entire floor was paved with polished black crystal stones. The black crystal stones emitted a dense, spiritual chi, so Lung Ruoxue could tell with a single glance that they were dark attribute crystal stones. Furthermore, they were of the highest quality. The surrounding walls were all colorless and semi-transparent crystals, also emitting a strong natural energy. Lung Ruoxue squinted her beautiful eyes and looked at the semi-transparent walls around her. She was speechless. If she remembered correctly, the crystal stones on the walls should be the attribute-less crystal stones that were long extinct as mentioned in the information left behind by her master. All these crystal stones were of the highest quality. He really didn't know what kind of people or beasts once lived here. It was really too extravagant. Even though she had quite a few good things in her hands, she was not willing to use top-grade crystals as the floor or the wallpaper. It seemed that compared to the previous owner of this place, she was still very poor. Sob. When she thought of this, Lung Ruoxue felt depressed. Chapter 1394, An Unusual Path. 1. Why am I so poor? Lung Ruoxue thought to herself with a tinge of sadness. I wonder if there's anything that I can take with me? I really want to take all of them away, but I wonder who the owner of this place is? Oh, if he ransacked someone's house, would he be hunted down? She started to let her imagination run wild. At this moment, a voice suddenly rang out in the originally empty room. You guys are here? The few of them were stunned and looked at each other. Their confused eyes were filled with countless question marks. Who was this voice talking to? The gazes of Lung Ruoxue and the rest could not help but land on the two guards from the Yin clan. The two guards' hearts trembled as they looked at them. It wasn't me. We don't know him. One of the guards hurriedly said under the pressure of Lung Ruoxue and the others' gazes. We don't know him, Lung Ruoxue said with a smile. AI. The voice sighed and said helplessly, Little girl, I'm talking to you. Since the owner of the voice had already identified the gender, the few men naturally wouldn't let their imagination run wild. As the only three women present, Lung Ruoxue, Yuqing, and Xiang also ignored the voice and raised their heads to look at the sky. No one was stupid. This was not the first time they had encountered such a fortuitous encounter. In everyone's understanding, anyone who started off by saying, You guys are here? Usually, it would not be a good thing. They were either asked to work like cows and horses or to complete some mission. If the reward of the mission was good, it would be worth it. However, if it was some garbage, they would have no way to reason with it. After all, the mission had already been completed. Therefore, they all subconsciously avoided the words of this voice. Little girl, it's useless for you to play dumb. Since we're here, it means that we're fated to meet. Sigh. The owner of the voice sighed when no one responded. Little girl, I do have a favor to ask of you. However, if you're not willing, I won't force you. But if you don't agree to my request, you won't be able to continue forward, and you won't be able to see the friends who came here before. The voice continued. Big brother Ian and the others are here. After Lung Ruoxue heard the voice's words, she finally had some reaction. However, she was a little annoyed in her heart. Damn it, this voice said that it wouldn't force them, but in reality, if they didn't accept this voice's mission, they wouldn't be able to continue forward. How infuriating. If the big brother Ian you mentioned is the group of people who passed by here before, then they are indeed here. The voice said, Why can they pass through here? Lung Ruoxue couldn't help but ask. There was something else that she didn't say out loud, and that was, why do we have to complete your commission? Although it was called a request, Lung Ruoxue was very clear that the previous owner of this place must have left behind some kind of test, or rather, it could be said to be their last wish. After someone discovered this place, they had no choice but to complete it. Otherwise, they would have to return the way they came. They are not the ones we have chosen. Moreover, they have a junior from my clan to lead the way. Therefore, they can naturally pass through this place directly. However, you can't the voice explained. Oh, since that's the case, we won't be going over. Lung Ruoxue chuckled. Her answer not only stunned her voice, but even ZU and the others were surprised. After all, they had come in to find someone, but now, because this voice wanted them to do something, their miss was suddenly not going, This didn't seem like his young miss character. Not going over? Are you sure? Didn't you guys come here to find those people? The voice asked a few questions in a row, its tone full of disbelief. We're indeed here to find those people, but since they have a junior from your clan to lead the way, we naturally don't need to find them. We'll just wait for them at the door. Lung Ruoshua spoke the truth. She didn't know who the owner of this voice was, so she really didn't dare to lie to him. If he were to expose her, it would bring trouble to them, Brother Ian and the others. That wouldn't be the outcome she wanted. Little girl, they were brought to the holy land of my clan by a junior of my clan. There are many souls of my clan that have yet to rest in peace, so it will be dangerous for them to go there. If you can't save them in time, I'm afraid you will never see them again. The owner of the voice seemed to be in a very bad mood. What did you just say? Lung Ruochu's voice turned cold as she questioned him. I said you must save them. Otherwise, they will be in danger. The voice repeated. You'd better make yourself clear. Lung Ruoshua warned. Little girl, this was originally the habitat of my clan. However, a great disaster several tens of thousands of years ago caused this place to become a nightmare for my clan. That great disaster was a fatal blow to my clan. My clansmen died one after another, but their souls were trapped in my clan's holy land and could not rest in peace. After so many years, their originally calm souls have become more and more violent. If they are not controlled or purified, they will become the source of a disaster for the entire divine realm. And the only one who can do this is you. This time, the voice directly stated that the person he was waiting for was Lung Ruoshua. Lung Ruoshua could no longer continue to act dumb. What makes you think I can do all this? I'm only a mid-level deity. I'm afraid I can't take on such a heavy responsibility. Lung Ruoshua declined politely. She didn't want to be a savior. She was just a small deity. For such a matter of saving people in distress, there would naturally be powerful experts who would step up. Therefore, she didn't think that such a matter would be up to her. Little girl, your flame has the ability to purify. It can let the souls of my clansmen rest in peace. Therefore, they really need your help. If you're willing to help, my clan's collection that has lasted for tens of thousands of years will all belong to you. Also, the only surviving junior of my clan can also recognize you as its master. My clansmen have some special abilities that will be very useful to you. The voice coaxed. Chapter 1395. An Unusual Path 2. You should know by looking at this house that our clan has many good things. You won't be at a disadvantage. The voice helplessly reminded. Your commission is for me to help purify the souls of your clansmen. Lung Ruoshua probed. Even though she was tempted by the things here, she had to be alive to enjoy them. She didn't want to do something she couldn't do for these good things. It was no different from suicide. However, it seemed that the purification that she knew of was usually directly burned by fire, and those so-called souls would naturally all turn into ashes. Yes, my clansmen have all been dead for tens of thousands of years. If they don't rest in peace, they'll probably turn into vengeful spirits. So, please save them. The voice pleaded. He'll try. However, I can't guarantee that I can do it, but you have to promise me that even if I can't do it, you can't stop me from taking Brother Ian and the others out of here. Lung Ruoshua started to talk about her conditions. Actually, she felt that the voice was probably lying when it said that they would be in danger if she couldn't rescue them in time. This was because the voice was certain that she wouldn't just stand by and watch. If not, why would they come all the way here? However, they were using Brother Ian as bait, and she couldn't help but fall for it. Thus, she could only state her conditions clearly. Regardless of whether Brother Ian and the rest were really in danger, she was going to take them away. If she could purify the clansmen mentioned by the voice and obtain their many years of collection, it would be a good thing. However, she could not be too sure about such things. Therefore, she would never make any promises to the voice. You can definitely do it. The voice replied confidently after hearing Lung Ruoxu's words. We've agreed to your commission. Can you let us through now? Lung Ruoxu couldn't help but ask. This house had appeared on the road they had come from. Hence, the road ahead was completely blocked by the house. Hence, they could only continue on after the house let them through. Not only will I let you go, but I'll also take you to my tribe's holy land. The voice was filled with joy. After he finished speaking, a translucent white beast that looked like a fox appeared in front of Lung Ruoxu and the others. Lung Ruoxu lifted her beautiful eyes to size up the almost transparent little beast in front of her. She was secretly shocked. This little beast was actually a spirit as well. However, this little beast's mind was unusually clear. Its fiery red eyes also flickered with the light of wisdom. It looked like an extremely intelligent little beast. What kind of beastie are you? Lung Ruoxu asked curiously. I'm a fox. The little translucent beast replied shyly. Fox. Lung Ruoxu furrowed her brows and thought for a while, but she realized that she had no information on this type of beast. You're really a fox? Suddenly, Shui Ying shouted, his fluffy face full of disbelief. What's wrong? Lung Ruoxu and the rest looked at Shui Ying in confusion. Shui, according to the historical records of our fox clan a long, long time ago, the term fox referred to two types of beasts. One was a fox, and the other was a raccoon. Not only do we look similar, but we are also related by blood. Moreover, the raccoon's strength was one of the best in the divine realm. As such, the Fox clan could definitely be compared to the kings of the Dragon and Phoenix clans in the divine realm. However, ever since the Raccoon clan went extinct, our Fox clan declined, Shui Ying said with a hint of sadness. In fact, what it didn't say was that the Fox clan was once strong because of the existence of the fox. Moreover, the Fox clan was good at charm, while the fox was good at fighting. In addition, the fox also had a very enviable innate skill, which was transmigration. To put it bluntly, Siri could travel to any place they wanted to go, as if they were entering a no-man's land. And Siri, whose strength had reached the hierarch level, could even travel through time and space. However, now that there were outsiders, it naturally couldn't say this out loud. The civet cats that the major families knew were probably the ones it had said before. Yes, little fox, I didn't expect you to know about this. The little white beast's fiery red eyes were filled with tears as it spoke with excitement. Little fox? When Snow Shadow heard this form of address, he was extremely depressed. After all, it had lived for many years and had always been the one calling others little fellow. Now, it was being called Little Fox by a soul that had been dead for who knew how many years. This was really a little strange. Ha! Although I'm already dead, I'm probably much older than the current leader of your Fox clan. It's not a loss for you to call you a little fox, right? The little translucent beast, who had seen through Snow Shadow's thoughts, said. A palm-sized little beast had called the gigantic Shui Ying a little fox. Not only Shui Ying could not bear it. Even Lung Ruoxu and the rest felt that it was a little strange. However, out of consideration for Shui Ying's face, they were kind enough not to laugh out loud. You can call me Shui Ying. Snow Shadow gritted his teeth. However, he couldn't possibly argue with a dead person who was considered half his ancestor. However, it was still very unhappy. All right then, Snow Shadow, little girl, it'll take you to my clan's holy land. The little white beast said to Lung Ruoxu. You can call me Lung Ruoxu or Shui. Lung Ruoxu reminded. When she heard this voice calling her a little girl, she didn't feel anything. However, now that the owner of the voice had appeared, that slightly mature voice, coupled with such a small body, hearing the words little girl from its mouth, she couldn't take it anymore. All right then, Shui. The little white beast seemed to be very aggrieved. After it finished speaking, it enveloped Lung Ruoxu and the others in a white light. Then, Lung Ruoxu and the others watched as they passed through the wall and came to the other side of the road. Ugh! Was this considered a wall-crossing technique? He really didn't think that a small beast like the fox would have such an ability. It was really too heaven-defying. If he had such a small beast, stealing things would be like entering a no-man's land. Lung Roashua looked at the little snow-white beast, her beautiful eyes glowing as her imagination ran wild. In fact, not only her, even Ziyu and the others had the same thought. The two guards of the Yin family were so surprised that they fell into a daze, unable to come back to their senses for a long time. Chapter 1396, An Unusual Path 3, Little Li, where is your sacred ground? Hurry up and bring us there. Lung Roashua looked at the sky and urged. Little Tanuki, hearing Lung Roashua's form of address, the little white beast was taken aback. It thought to itself, who is this little girl calling? It's you. Lung Roashua looked at the little white beast's dazed expression and knew that it had yet to react. I'm not called Little Tanuki. The little white beast sighed helplessly. It seemed that this little girl was a lazy person. She didn't even ask for its name and just called it Little Tanuki. Oh, Lung Roashua gave a light reply and did not continue. The little white beast, who had been waiting for Lung Roashua to ask for its name, saw that she did not continue to ask as it had expected. It then asked in confusion, why didn't you ask for my name? This little girl's reaction was really too different. It seemed that it was not easy to guess her thoughts. Sob, why did the heavens send such a difficult little girl to solve the problem of their clan? This little girl was clearly not someone who knew her place. At this moment, the little white beast made an important conclusion to Lung Roashua. The name is not important. If you want to tell us, we will ask you even if we don't tea. If you don't want to tell us, it's useless for us to ask. Lung Roashua said in a tongue-twister-like manner. Emoli. The little white beast introduced itself. Emoli, you're clearly white. Why are you called Emoli? It's so strange. Before Lung Roashua could say anything about Emoli's name, Yu Qing asked curiously. My name doesn't seem to have anything to do with my color. Our leopard cat race doesn't name ourselves according to color. After hearing the Moon Eye's words, the little white beast's forehead was filled with black lines, and it couldn't help but secretly sigh in its heart. When did soul-gnawing beast become so stupid? It really didn't dare to imagine how the soul-gnawing beast clan had managed to survive until now. Could it be said that they were just too lucky? Oh, Little Black, hurry up and bring us to your race's holy land. After hearing Li's explanation, Yu Qing urged him with embarrassment. The little white beast, Li, let out a sigh. He was completely depressed. He had already said that his name was Li. Did he still need to emphasize that his name was not Little Black? He didn't know if this soul-gnawing beast was really stupid or was deliberately toying with him. It was really infuriating. However, it was the little girl who needed its help now, so it naturally couldn't get angry at them over such a small matter. So, after thinking about it, it held back. However, it still couldn't help but remind him, please call me Emoli, not Blackie. Although the meaning of black and ink was similar, black was black and ink was ink. They definitely could not be mixed together. Emoli insisted on this. All right, Li, hurry up and bring us there. Yu Qing said disapprovingly. Since this little beast was not satisfied with Little Black, then she would just change the way she addressed it. It was not a big deal. Let's go. Emoli sighed and decided not to argue about the name anymore. Otherwise, it would be so angry that its soul would fly out of its body. Following that, the white light enveloped Lung Roashua and the rest. They were teleported to the gate of the Holy Land that Emoli had mentioned. The so-called Holy Land was actually an unusually large and gorgeous palace. The top of the palace reached into the clouds, and it was impossible to see the end. One could only imagine how large the palace was. Go in. There's a lot of space inside, and there are many passages. You must follow me closely and don't run around. Otherwise, if you end up trapped here, I won't be able to save you. Emoli reminded. This palace was the crystallization of the Fox clan's wisdom. It was full of traps and mechanisms. Since no one had been in control of the palace for many years, it was similar to an ownerless palace. However, this ownerless palace would automatically set up defenses, especially when it sensed an aura that did not belong to the Fox clan. Therefore, it was impossible for any outsider to leave the palace alive unless they were led by a member of the Fox clan. Which path leads to the Sacred Land's core? Lung Roashua asked as she looked at the numerous paths in front of her, which were covered with top-grade black crystals and were so bright that they could reflect a person's image. Ha! Schwer, don't worry. None of these paths were. Follow me. Emoli pushed open the door of the room closest to them and walked in. Lung Ruashue and the rest followed him in, only to realize that the room was completely empty. There was nothing at all. Emoli smiled mysteriously when he saw the confused expressions on Lung Ruashue and the others' faces. Then, he raised his little paw and a white light covered Lung Ruashue and the others again. Then, he brought them through the wall. She could only watch as she passed through wall after wall. The walls were all made of crystals, so one could imagine how hard they were. Furthermore, she had never experienced such an experience before. Lung Ruashue felt extremely strange, and she did not know what kind of feeling lingered in her heart. However, she was now certain that these legendary beasts like the fox didn't like to walk the ordinary path, and the paths they saw just now were probably just a smokescreen. Who asked them to have such a heaven-defying skill? This was a talent that could not be envied. They didn't know how many walls Emoli had brought them through. When Lung Ruashue and the others felt a little dizzy, they finally arrived at their destination. The so-called core of the Holy Land was actually the center of the entire palace, and just by standing outside the door of the core, they could feel the dense spiritual energy emitted from inside. Schwerer, this is the place. The ancestor who built this holy land was one of the oldest and most famous ancestors of the Fox tribe. In the eyes of the Fox tribe, the ancestor's wisdom was definitely above that of humans. Otherwise, this holy land would not have been built so beautifully. It must be known that such a palace was unique even among the beast tribe. Can we go in? Lung Ruashue asked for Emoli's opinion. Yes, Emoli nodded, but his little body kept trembling. Obviously, he was a little nervous. After all, he hadn't come back for a long time. He was like a child who hadn't come home for a long time and was afraid of his home. With Emoli's permission, Lung Ruashue pushed open the heavy door with her slender hands. Then a strong spiritual chi gushed out. Lung Ruashue and the rest walked in and looked at the place that was known as the core of the Holy Land. How should he put it? This was considered a room, but it was not completely a room because the area of this room was too large. Many open spaces were planted with all kinds of flowers. If she didn't know that this was the holy land of the fox race, she would definitely think that this was the residence of some senior. The room was completely open and there were no windows. Sitting in the inner room, one could see the scenery outside. There were a few praying mats placed in the middle of the room. A small table was placed in the middle of the praying mats. When Lung Ruashue saw this, she guessed that this was the place where the clan leader or elder of the Leopard Cat clan discussed matters. However, it was obvious that the souls of the members of the Fox clan that Emoli had mentioned were not here. Emoli, where are the souls of your people? Lung Ruashue could not help but ask. You guys follow me. Be careful. Emoli, who was reminiscing about his family's elders, came back to his senses and said. Following that, it brought Lung Ruashue and the rest to the garden. In an unremarkable corner of the garden, there was a translucent wall. Through the wall, Lung Ruashue and the others could clearly see countless translucent souls like Emoli floating there. However, some of the souls had gradually turned gray. When those souls turned completely black, they would become real vengeful spirits. By then, even the wall would not be able to stop them. This wall contains the souls of our ancestors. Therefore, it can prevent these souls from breaking through the wall. However, tens of thousands of years have passed, and the deterrence of the souls of our ancestors has become weaker and weaker. It won't be long before they cross the wall and wander around the entire divine world. It will be a disaster for the divine world, Emoli said with concern. Since their souls haven't been destroyed, why didn't they reincarnate? Lung Ruashu asked in confusion. From what she knew, other than Reverend God-level cultivators, it seemed that anyone below the God-King level could be reincarnated as long as their soul did not dissipate. The reason why these souls existed was proof that their souls were intact. At least, they did not look like they had any problems on the surface. If that was the case, why were they trapped here? She could not figure it out. They're all cursed and can't be reincarnated, Emily said with some difficulty. The cursed clansmen were sometimes clear-headed and sometimes confused. Once they were not clear-headed, they would attack each other's souls. As time went by, the clansmen who were always defeated would become more and more resentful. Therefore, they would gradually turn into resentful spirits. Once one clansman turned into a resentful spirit, it would devour the other clansmen. It could definitely devour one or more vengeful spirit kings, and even give birth to a vengeful spirit emperor, to the divine realm. That would definitely be a great catastrophe of destruction. Why are you fine? Lung Roashua looked at Mo Lee and asked curiously. According to the records, although the soul could retain its consciousness, it would not be as clear as Mo Lee's. The soul and the divine consciousness were different. The soul was very fragile and could only remember a limited number of things. However, the divine consciousness could remember everything about its master, including the tasks that its master had assigned to it. Therefore, before Emoli showed up, she had thought that it was someone's divine consciousness that was talking to them. It had never crossed her mind that it was someone's divine consciousness. The one who wanted them to complete the mission was actually a soul. In order to keep my mind clear at all times, the clan leader sacrificed himself. Otherwise, I would be no different from the soul locked up here. Mo Yin lowered his head and said with tears in his fiery red eyes, the disaster tens of thousands of years ago had caused many of the members of the Leopard Cat clan to die or be injured. Even after their deaths, the clansmen could not rest in peace and could not be reincarnated. However, the powerful ancestors of the clan might not have died if they had not sacrificed themselves for the sake of their clansmen. Unfortunately, even if they had sacrificed themselves, they could not save these cursed clansmen. The only person who could save the members of the Leopard Cat clan was this beautiful human girl in front of them. Chapter 1397, The Soul of the Fox Tribe 1. Oh, then what do you want me to do? Lung Roashue raised her eyebrows and asked calmly after hearing what Emoli said. She looked into the room through the translucent wall, but she didn't see Brother Een and the others. Purify them. Let their souls rest in peace, Emoli said expectantly. But the purification that I know of is to burn with fire. By then, I'm afraid that not even ashes will be left of your clansmen. Lung Ruashua said innocently. Lung Ruakshu's words made the little Mo Yan's mouth twitch unnaturally. He was speechless. Did the old ancestor count the wrong person? Could this beautiful human girl really solve the crisis of their race? It was very suspicious now. I really don't know how to purify souls and let them rest in peace. If you want them to disappear from this world, it's not difficult to do. Lung Ruashua chuckled. Actually, she had said that on purpose. However, when she saw the little beast's mouth twitching, she was speechless. Could a soul do such a thing? It really wasn't easy. You just need to control the temperature of your flame, Emoli said with a sigh. Good. Then tell me, what's the temperature to control? Lung Ruashua asked shamelessly. 70% will do. If it's any higher, my people will be roasted dry, Emoli reminded him. Oh, your requirements are a little high, so I can only guarantee that the temperature will be controlled at about 70 degrees. As for whether it's high or low, I can't control it, Lung Ruashua said helplessly. In fact, with her current ability to control fire, it was not difficult for her to control the temperature of the fire at 70 degrees. However, she did not want Emoli to think that it was easy. If that happened, this cunning little beast would not cherish the fruits of his labor. As expected, Emoli was a little upset after hearing Lung Ruakshu's words. However, he still said considerately, it doesn't matter, just do your best. And That's right. Where are Big Brother Een and the others? Why don't I see them? Lung Ruashua asked in confusion. She had not forgotten the reason why she was here. They're inside. Emoli pointed at the translucent wall and said, Inside? Isn't it dangerous inside? Was it a junior from your clan who brought them in? Lung Ruashua said. She felt anger rising in her heart. Damn it, if Brother Een and the others were to lose even a single hair, she would have turned these souls into ashes. With the protection of my clan's juniors, they're temporarily safe. However, it's hard to say for sure after a long time. Emoli lowered his head and said in embarrassment, Oh, really? You'd better make sure that they're safe, or else. Lung Ruashua deliberately said half a sentence and left half a sentence behind. Emoli understood what she meant, so he could only smile bitterly. They'll bring you in. Emoli said, Yes. Lung Ruashua nodded. Then, Emoli covered them with the white light again and brought them through the wall. With the protection of the white light, the souls inside the wall miraculously didn't get close to them. They just watched from a distance. Thanks slowly, some souls started to float over. However, they only surrounded the white circle of light and looked at them curiously. Emoli led them to a small building with only 2 floors. They didn't know how long they had been walking. The small building was not tall, and its appearance was very simple. Although there were many souls floating around, the number was negligible compared to the ones they had seen along the way. Your friend is inside. Emoli pointed at the 2-story building in front of them. Bring us in, Lung Ruashua said impatiently. Yes. Emoli nodded and entered the building with Lung Ruashua and the others. After entering, Lung Ruashua was surprised to find that there was not a single soul inside. She was puzzled. Didn't those souls know how to pass through walls? Why didn't any soul enter? There are also the souls of my clan's old ancestors here. They can't enter. Emoli explained as he saw through Lung Ruashua's thoughts. Oh, Lung Ruashua nodded. No wonder there were no spirits here. If Big Brother Een and the others were here, they should be safe for the time being. However, why did the little beast by Big Brother Een's side bring them here? When she saw that little beast, she would definitely interrogate it properly. He brought Lung Ruashua and the rest up to the 2nd floor. After they entered a room, a familiar voice rang out, Shwer, why are you guys here? Lung Ruashua didn't need to look to know that the person who spoke was Brother Een. However, she still had to put on an angry look and said, Of course we're here to save you. Big Brother Een, you don't even know where this place is, so how can you just barge in? I'm sorry. Een Shao lowered his head guiltily. He knew that they had made Shwe worried. Young master, it's a good thing you're all right otherwise. How are we going to explain this to the head of the family? When the Tuing family guard saw Een Shao, they could not help but cry out. If it was any other time, they would not have said such things. However, this time, they were really too anxious, and thus, they could not help but blurt out these words. I didn't expect that we wouldn't be able to get out of this place. Een Shao said gloomily. They had indeed followed Shao Buddy in here out of curiosity, but after entering the building, they realized that they were trapped inside. However, they couldn't get out, and the ferocious spirits outside couldn't get in either. Thus, they were temporarily safe. It's normal that it can't get out. This fox is still underage, so it naturally can't break through the restrictions set by the ancestors. At this moment, Emoli couldn't help explaining. As soon as he opened his mouth, everyone's attention was drawn to him. Looking at this soul that could speak, Een Shao knew that it was different from the ones outside. Compared to Shao Budian, who couldn't speak, he would rather talk to this soul. AI. Along the way, he asked the little guy a lot of questions. However, apart from acting cute, the little guy simply couldn't answer them. Not only that, he even brought them here and trapped them here. Thinking of this, he felt extremely depressed. Chapter 1398. Souls of the Leopard Cat Tribe 2. What is this place? Why are there so many souls here? Een Shao looked at the translucent fox-like creature in front of him and asked in confusion. This is the holy land of my clan. They're the dead clansmen of my clan. Emily gave a simple answer. Then why are they? Ian Xiao had wanted to ask why they were trapped here, but he was embarrassed to ask when he saw Emily's excited look. It must be something sad. They're cursed and can't reincarnate. My ancestors were afraid that they would go out and cause trouble, so they trapped them here. However, they can't be trapped here for long. Emily stared at Lung Ruoxue with his fiery red eyes after he finished his words. Then why are you fine? Yin Xiao couldn't help but ask again. The soul in front of him was obviously different from the ones outside. I'm special, Emily said with tears in his eyes. It was special because it was chosen by the ancestors to wait for the messenger who could save their entire clan. Therefore, the ancestors did not hesitate to consume their own divine power to keep its spiritual consciousness clear. When Yin Xiao heard her say him special, he knew that he couldn't ask any more questions. He was afraid that he would get into Lung Ruoxue's secret. Thus, he turned his gaze to Lung Ruoxue. Just as he was about to change the topic, he realized that Shui wasn't even looking at him. Instead, she was focused on the little white beast in his arms. Ugh! Shui's gaze was very unfriendly. She wouldn't do anything to this little one, right? Just as he was thinking about this, Lung Ruoxue walked to his side and took the little one away from his arms. Little thing, how should I teach you a lesson? Lung Ruoxue raised the palm-sized little beast into the air and spoke in an unfriendly tone. However, not only did Lung Ruoxue's actions not make Xiao Budian afraid, she even acted cute. Her little head rubbed against Lung Ruoxue's snow-white wrist, making her not know whether to laugh or cry. It seemed that this little thing was a smart fellow. She actually thought that she could just act coquettishly. Thinking of this, Lung Ruoxue freed one hand and slapped Xiao Budian's chubby little butt. This slap was definitely not light. However, Xiao Budian only gritted his teeth in pain. Immediately after, tears welled up in his eyes, and he looked at Lung Ruoxue with an aggrieved expression. It's useless to act pitiful. Lung Ruoxue chided. Woo! Xiao Budian sobbed, but no one present interceded for him. When he saw this, he couldn't help but turn a look at Yin Xiao. The pleading in his eyes was self-evident. However, he knew that he couldn't provoke Lung Ruoxue when she was angry, so he didn't dare to plead on Xiao Budian's behalf. Furthermore, his crime didn't seem to be pardoned. In this way, he did not dare to speak up for the little guy. Woo! Little fellow, take care of yourself and pray for good luck. He prayed in his heart. Papa, following a few crisp sounds, Xiao Budian's fat, but also received a few slaps. However, Xiao Budian didn't dare to be angry, nor did he dare to speak. Ugh! The main thing was that he couldn't speak. However, Lung Ruoxue had already left a vicious impression in its young heart. Hence, from now on, it was extremely obedient in front of Lung Ruoxue. Thanks seeing that his junior was being beaten up and no one was pleading for him, Emily finally couldn't help but say, Shui, it already knows its mistake. Please spare it. Yes, yes. Xiao Budian kept nodding his head after hearing Emily's words. His red eyes were full of tears. He looked so pitiful. However, Lung Ruoxue would not be soft-hearted towards a small beast that had put Big Brother Ian and the rest in danger. Hence, no matter how cute this small beast was, it was useless. Pop, pop. The sound of slapping continued to ring out. Seeing that acting cute and acting cute were of no use, the little guy simply began to wail. When the people present heard the cry, they all turned their heads in tacit understanding. After a long time, Lung Ruoxue stopped and looked at the little beastie that was bawling its eyes out. She was speechless. Was it that painful? She felt that she had already shown mercy. If she really wanted to beat it up, how could its small body withstand it? Actually, she didn't expect the little beast that brought Brother Ian and the rest to this place to be so small. However, no matter how small it was, it still had to be taught a lesson. Otherwise, it would be lawless in the future. Don't cry anymore, or it'll throw you to the wolves, Lung Ruoxue threatened. However, her threatening words caused Ziyu and the others to be filled with black lines on their foreheads. They couldn't help but secretly think, Miss a wolf might not eat this little thing. In the beast clan, the bloodline of beasts is of different levels, and this little fox's bloodline level is very high. After all, its ancestors were once comparable to the kings of the beast clan, such as dragons and phoenixes. Let me ask you, can a wolf eat such a small beast? Although the wolf clan's bloodline wasn't low, it was still slightly inferior to a foxess. Although everyone present felt that Lung Ruakshu's threat was unbelievable, Xiao Budian did not dare to cry anymore. He could only cry in his heart. Woo! This big sister was so fierce. He was so scared. You'd better hurry up and purify my clansmen. In fact, this little fellow brought them here to save our clansmen. It's just that it's too young and doesn't understand these things. Good intentions end up in bad things. Seeing that Lung Ruashue had finished venting her anger, Mo Li defended Xiao Budian. It doesn't understand. Don't you understand? Since you know that not only can't Brother Ian save them, but you will also be in danger, why did you let them come? Lung Ruashua asked angrily after hearing what Mo Li had said. In fact, she had wanted to ask these questions for a long time, but she had not seen Brother Ian and the others yet, so she had held back. I know you're angry, but I can't do anything about this. This is all determined by the innate talent of my race. Emily said helplessly. Their race was gifted with the ability to travel through time. Therefore, his juniors could take the little girl's friends through the room without any obstacles. As a soul, it could not stop them. After all, it had its own mission. It could not leave the room until someone could save its people. Chapter 1399. The Soul of the Fox Tribe 3. After hearing what Emoli said, Lung Ruashua was a little depressed. She thought of the wall-passing technique. Indeed, one could enter uninvited without permission. This talent was quite annoying when he thought about it. Who would be able to tolerate a small beast entering and leaving their own place as if no one was there? It seemed that she had to educate this little beastie properly. Otherwise, it would cause trouble for her and the others if it ran around like this. Little girl, hurry up and purify the souls of my clansmen. That way, we can leave this place and all of my clan's collections will belong to you, as well as this little beast. Emoli reminded him. This little beast is Big Brother Ines. I don't want it. Lung Ruashua said with a look of disdain. I've been wandering all over the world and can't bring along such a small cub. Please take it. In Xiao hurriedly replied. He had originally wanted to keep this little beast with Lung Ruashua, but now that she said she didn't want it, he was a little anxious. He was a grown man, and if he brought such a small beast with him, he would be a joke. If this was an adult beast, he might have considered it. But I don't want it either. Lung Ruakshu's face showed nothing but disgust, which made Emoli speechless. However, he felt more helpless because he could already predict the difficult process of his junior recognizing a master. Only by following this little girl could the Leopard Cat clan have a future and regain its former glory. Therefore, he had to make this little girl accept his junior. Thinking of this, Emoli said, Little girl, my clan's talent is extremely heaven-defying, and it will be very helpful to you in the future. So you should accept it. Yup. Swear, this little thing is pretty and cute and has great talent. You should take it. In Xiao pleaded again. Even though this little fellow's talent was extremely envious, he didn't dare to keep this little thing by his side. If that happened, wouldn't he lose all his privacy? Ever since he knew that the little guy could go through the wall, he understood how this little guy entered his tent without being discovered. Big Brother Ian, it was originally your beastie, and I also feel that you two are quite compatible. As the saying goes, a gentleman does not take away what others love. So how can I accept it? Lung Ruakshu's beautiful face was filled with embarrassment. Shwea, it's not my beastie. I'm only temporarily taking it in. It was true. If you don't believe me, you can ask Uncle Zhong. Helplessly, Yin Xiao could only use Uncle Zhong as a shield. Yup, young Lady Lung, young master had originally intended to give this little beast to you. Uncle Zhong sighed and said helplessly, In his heart, he kept complaining, "Young master, even if you don't want this beastie, you don't have to drag him into this." Even if Big Brother Ian wants to leave it to me, it seems that this little beast is not very willing. Why don't we respect this little fellow's opinion? Lung Rawashua noticed the fear and uneasiness in the little beastie's eyes from the corner of her eyes and smiled. "Little guy, are you willing to follow me?" Lung Rawashua raised little beastie before her eyes again and asked seriously. Her solemnness frightened little beastie so much that it did not dare to respond. Woo, this sister was too fierce. It didn't want to be with her. However, it couldn't shout out these words because it couldn't speak. It felt aggrieved. "Big Brother Ian, this little thing is not willing." Lung Rawashua saw that little beastie had no reaction and quickly added. When Ian Shao heard Lung Rawashua's words, he was speechless. Even if that little beastie can't speak, you don't have to bully it like this. He couldn't help but sigh in his heart. He could tell that the little guy was already scared silly by Shwe Air's fierceness. Under such circumstances, which beastie would say yes, However, this matter could not go as Shwe wished, because he had already decided to throw this burden to Shwe. "I have such a good master. How could not be willing?" At this moment, Emoli came to the little beast and said, blinking his eyes. In fact, it was sending a message to the little beast. However, its strength was limited after becoming a soul. If it was too far away, it wouldn't be able to transmit everything it wanted to say into the little beast's heart. The little beastie nodded hesitantly after hearing its ancestors' words. However, the expression on its little face was very unwilling. Naturally, its expression could not be hidden from the people present. Seeing the little beastie's reluctance and its posture of being driven to a corner, Ziyu and the others were deeply speechless. One must know that their misaffinity with beasts had always been so good that it made people jealous. This was the first time they had seen a little beastie so unwilling to follow their miss. They couldn't help but feel curious. However, everyone knew that this was most likely related to the fact that their miss had previously beaten its butt. "You're really willing?" Lung Roakshu's eyes were half closed as she asked coldly. The chill in her words made the little beastie shiver. It curled up its little body and nodded unwillingly. Tears kept welling up in its fiery red eyes. It wanted to cry, but did not dare to. "But you don't look very willing." Lung Roashue observed the little beast in her hands carefully. It can't speak." "Didn't it nod?" "Why wouldn't I be willing?" In Shao hurriedly said, "Yup, Shwer, it's very willing." Emoli agreed. "Thanks, since you all say so, then I'll take it." Lung Roashu said helplessly as she looked at the man and the beast's soul who were lying through their teeth. In her opinion, it did not matter if she had one more beast or one less. Therefore, it did not matter much to her whether she accepted it or not. However, seeing how Brother Ian and Emoli were trying their best to promote this little beast, she would feel sorry for them if she did not accept it. "Shwea, you've made a wise decision." In Shao seemed to heave a sigh of relief. "I've finally gotten rid of this little fellow." "Shwea, you won't regret this," Emoli said with joy. Now that the problem of the only junior in the clan had been solved, it was time for the souls in his clan who could not be reincarnated. He was excited at the thought of this. It had been waiting for this day for a long time. Looking at the man and beast in high spirits, Lung Ruashua felt a little regretful. Could she return the goods now? This was clearly a forced purchase, because whether it was her or that little beast, they were both not very satisfied with each other. The little beast was angry but did not dare to speak up, but she was indifferent. "Shwea, now, you can purify the souls of my clansmen," Emoli urged impatiently. "I can, but they're too scattered. Do you have any way to gather them together?" Lung Roashu asked. Her soul was too scattered. If she were to purify it, she did not know how long it would take. She would die from exhaustion. "Mill try. Shwer, you just need to come out with me. The rest of you can stay here," Emoli said after some thought. When Xiao Budian heard his own grand ancestor's words, he struggled a few times in Lung Ruoxu's hands. His intention was clear, he wanted to go out too. However, Lung Ruoxu would not give this little guy the chance to go out and cause trouble. He threw it into Z's arms and gave Emoli a look. Then, the man and the beast left the room. In the yard, Emoli roared into the air. This roar was the unique sound of the Fox clan when they called for their companions. Although the members of the Fox clan had become souls, this sound was deeply engraved in their souls. However, Emoli did not know if his people would still respond to the call. However, its worry was obviously unnecessary because before the end of its roar could be heard, countless translucent souls flew over from all directions. Although the souls' eyes were filled with confusion, they would never forget the voice. Some of the souls who were still conscious even nodded at Emoli in a friendly way. "Emoli, why have you summoned us?" A similarly translucent soul said. "You can all be free now," Emoli said with excitement. Really, the soul that spoke could not believe it. It thought it had heard wrong. "Yes, she's here to purify you." Emoli pointed at Lung Ruoxu and said. The soul started to size Lung Ruoxu up with its red eyes after hearing what Emoli said. Could this human woman really save them? It couldn't believe it because in its eyes, this human woman was so weak. While the soul was sizing her up, Lung Ruoxu didn't forget to look at it as well. This soul's aura seemed to be even stronger than Emoli's. No wonder it was able to maintain consciousness like Emoli. However, on its translucent chest, there was a gray area the size of a fist, which Emoli didn't have. However, this soul seemed to be the king of souls in this place. Because of its presence, some souls that drooled at her did not dare to approach her, even if those souls were very envious of her. "Little human girl, I thank you on behalf of the leopard cat race." It looked at Lung Ruoxu's soul and said slowly after a long while. It knew Emoli's mission very well. Since this woman was brought here by Emoli, it must be right. "You're thanking me a little too early. I don't have the confidence to purify you. If I accidentally burn you into ashes, don't blame me." Lung Ruoxu said the ugly words first. Ha ha ha. After hearing Lung Ruoxu's words, the soul could not help but burst out laughing. After it was done laughing, it spoke again. "What an interesting little human girl. I've never seen a human like you. In fact, you don't have to say that, because even if you really annihilate us, no one will take revenge on you. Our Fox clan no longer exists." Even though the soul spirit was smiling as it spoke, Lung Ruoxu could hear the self-mockery and sadness in its words. However, this soul spirit of the leopard cat race with a straightforward temperament had left a very good impression on her. At least when it heard her words, it did not become angry from embarrassment. Instead, it knew how to laugh at itself to get out of trouble. This was enough to show that the intelligence of the leopard cat race was very high. "Little human girl, my clansmen have been waiting for too long. Let's begin the purification." The soul said. "Good. Gather them. I might need to purify them in batches." Lung Ruoxu ordered. There were so many souls that it was impossible to purify all of them at once. However, the fox's words seemed to be more effective than Emoli's. Therefore, she had to find someone who could talk. Chapter 1400. The Headache-Inducing Xiao Budian. 1. Seeing Lung Ruoxu ignore him and order the soul of the leopard cat race, who he had only met once, to do what it was supposed to do, Emoli's heart felt unbalanced. This hateful little girl was clearly burning the bridge after crossing the river. How would he treat it like this? What a realistic little fellow, Emoli thought to himself angrily. He also looked at Lung Ruoxu with resentment, but Lung Ruoxu ignored him. Then, the soul of the fox race said something to the souls around it, and the souls that were not very dense gathered together automatically. "Little human girl, you can start now," the soul of the leopard cat said with great reluctance. Its fiery red eyes carried a trace of nostalgia. "All right," he said. Lung Ruoxu nodded. Immediately, a small flame that was glowing with a purple light appeared on her fair fingertips. Although the flame was small, its temperature was extremely high. The moment the flame appeared, the souls of the leopard clan members started to tremble uncontrollably. The flame made them feel fear. It made them instinctively afraid. However, they knew that they could not retreat. Taking in their expressions, Lung Ruashua waved her hand gently. The flame on her fingertip flew towards the gathered souls. In an instant, a purplish-red light lit up the sky. The small flame suddenly grew bigger and enveloped the gathered souls within it. Not long after, painful howls could be heard from the flame. Arg! It hurts! Arg! I'm finally free. At the moment the flames burned their souls, the souls of the leopard cat race, which were not very clear-headed, regained their consciousness for a moment. Although the flames were extremely painful to them, they knew that they would only be able to truly escape if they could withstand the heat. Otherwise, they would be reduced to ashes. Lung Ruashua used her mind to control the temperature of the flames, feeling the souls within the flames. Even though many souls were trying their best to hold on, there were already some souls who were not strong-willed and could not withstand the high temperature, turning into ashes. After a while, the painful wails grew weaker and weaker. Slowly, the moans of comfort rang out continuously. Lung Ruashua knew that this was the sign of the soul's purification. After being burned by the flames, the souls that had survived to the end could be reincarnated. The curses on their bodies had also been completely burned away by her natal flames. After that, Lung Ruashua retracted her natal fire. The souls that were wrapped in the flames gradually revealed their pure, translucent looks. The fiery red eyes of the souls were filled with gratitude. After bowing slightly to Lung Ruashua, they looked at each other and started to mumble to themselves. Lung Ruashua could not understand the mumbling of the souls. However, as the souls spoke, specks of light began to float in the air. Following that, the specks of light floated towards Lung Ruashua and enveloped her within. The light spots were extremely warm and comfortable. Lung Ruashua bathed in the light spots and felt extremely comfortable. Although she did not know what the light spots were, she could clearly feel that the divine power in her body was becoming more and more abundant. This made her pleasantly surprised. She guessed that the light spots were the souls of the leopard clan expressing their gratitude. Thanks as the light spots on Lung Ruashua's body slowly disappeared. The souls of the fox race who were mumbling to themselves also slowly disappeared into the air. Lung Ruashua knew that they had gone to another world, so she was happy for them. Following that, Lung Ruashua repeated the process of purifying the souls of the fox tribe members in batches. Every time she purified them, there would be souls that could not withstand the burning flames and would turn into ashes. The souls that remained would express their gratitude to her in the same way. After a long time, Mo was the only one left in front of Lung Ruashua. She raised her beautiful eyes and looked at Mo, who was reluctant to leave. She couldn't help but say, Mo, what are your plans? Shwea, I'm going to reincarnate as well. Although I don't know what'll become in my next life, I'll always remember the kindness you've shown to our leopard cat tribe. You'll always be our leopard cat tribe's friend. I give you my blessings. Emily said sadly. Then, he mumbled to himself like the soul of the fox race. Then, countless light spots flew toward Lung Ruashua. Then, Emily's half-transparent body disappeared in front of Lung Ruashua. Seeing Emily disappear with her own eyes, Lung Ruashua did not feel good. Although she had not spent a long time with this fox, they knew each other. Even though they were not close, she still felt sad. When the demon and the rest walked out of the building, they saw Lung Ruashua standing alone in the courtyard in a daze. They had seen everything that Shwe had done in the room. When they saw so many cursed souls that could not be reincarnated, many of them felt sympathy for the Fox clan. Shwe, let's leave this place. The evildoer came to Lung Ruashua's side and pulled her into his arms. Still not enough. Lung Ruoxue, who had regained her senses, grabbed Xiao Budian from Z's arms and said, "Little thing, Emoli must have told you the location of the Fox Clan's collection for many years. Quickly bring me there." Damn it, she had forgotten to ask for payment from Emoli. She didn't remember it until he had disappeared. Oh, what a mistake. When did she become so emotional? Seeing the members of the Leopard Clan disappear, she felt sad. In fact, it was a good thing that they had left this place because it meant that they were reborn. However, it was not a good thing for her that they had all left. She hadn't even asked for her reward. When Yin Xiao and the rest heard Lung Ruoxue's words, their foreheads were filled with black lines. They were helpless. However, they were also a little suspicious. Would the little guy really know where the fox race's treasure was hidden? They did not think that Mo Li would tell Xiao Budian the location of the Fox Clan treasure. However, they did not dare to say it in front of Lung Ruoxue. As for Xiao Budian, he was being held in Lung Ruoxue's hands. His tiny body was so frightened that he could not stop trembling. The tears in his fiery red eyes were also dripping down drop by drop. Chapter 1401. The headache-inducing Xiao Budian. 2. Seeing the little guy's pitiful look, Lung Ruoxue was a little angry. She really couldn't understand why this little guy was crying. Didn't I just beat it but a few times before? Was there a need to scare it like this? Those who didn't know would think that they were bullying small animals. Don't cry. Say something. Lung Ruoxue growled softly. It still can't speak. Yin Xiao helplessly reminded. Oh, bring us there then. Lung Ruoxue ordered. Following that, she placed Xiao Budian on the ground. Xiao Budian did not dare to disobey her orders. He ran unwillingly in front on his 4 short legs. Woo! When the old Grand Madam transmitted her voice to him previously, she told him to follow this fierce big sister from now on. Of course, she also told him the location of the Leopard Clan's treasure vault. She even said that everything there was a reward for this fierce big sister. However, she could only give it to her after they had left. Following Xiao Budian, Lung Ruoxue and the others came to the open room that Mo Li had brought them to before. She thought that Xiao Budian would take them away from here, but he didn't. Lung Ruoxue saw that Xiao Budian had stopped in front of a wall and could not help but walk over to his side curiously. Why aren't you moving? Xiao Budian looked at Lung Ruoxue. Then, with a flash of white light, Lung Ruoxue and Xiao Budian disappeared from everyone's sight. The demon saw that Shui was being taken away by the little guy and hurriedly shouted, "Miss!" Ziyu and the others also cried out in alarm. Damn it, where did that little thing take the young lady? Wasn't this just making them anxious? They were all very clear that their miss and that little guy hated each other and didn't like each other. If they were to be alone now, who knew if they would start fighting? Besides feeling anxious, they seemed to have no other choice. Don't worry, Shui will be fine, Yin Xiao said confidently. Xiao Budian was not Shui's match, so he probably wouldn't dare to play any tricks on her. According to his guess, Xiao Budian must have brought Shui to get their reward, so he felt that they should just wait here. The demon nodded and didn't say anything. Actually, the evildoer knew that nothing would happen to Shui. However, Shui had just disappeared from his sight, leaving his heart empty. However, he could only wait for the little thing to bring Shui back. Lung Ruoxue wasn't mentally prepared when she was suddenly taken away by Xiao Budian. However, when she saw where Xiao Budian brought her to, she was momentarily dumbfounded. Oh my god, could this be the treasure vault of the leopard cat race? The place they were in was a secret room that was extremely large. As far as the eye could see, it was filled with countless top-grade crystals of various colors. They were piled on the ground like trash. When Lung Ruoxue saw these crystals, she kept them into her bracelet without a second word. She really did not know how many years the Fox clan had saved up to be able to save up so many crystal stones. Now, she had no doubt that with these top-grade crystal stones, the Fox clan would definitely be the richest beast clan in the Divine Realm. She believed that even the kings of the beast clan, like the dragon and phoenix, might not have as much wealth as the Fox clan. After she kept the crystal stones on the ground, she continued to walk into the secret room. Following that, she saw countless shelves that were half the height of a person. The shelves were filled with small and exquisite boxes. Lung Ruoxue opened one of the boxes and saw that it contained medicinal herbs. She had only opened one of them casually, and it contained an extremely precious medicinal herb. She casually opened a few more boxes and saw that they were still filled with well-preserved and precious medicinal herbs. Lung Ruoxue could not help but feel relieved. Fortunately, the leopard clan had not piled up these medicinal herbs like the crystals. Otherwise, she would have been heartbroken to death. Who asked these medicinal herbs to be her reward now? After putting away the box on the shelf, Lung Ruoxue went to the other side of the secret chamber. At the corner of the wall on the other side, there was a pile of uncountable ores. Those ores were all messily piled together. The corner of her mouth twitched as she thought to herself, "All right then, these weren't medicinal herbs, so she could endure it." Thanks, these ores naturally entered her bracelet without leaving a single one behind. Following that, she carefully wandered around the secret room until the little guy tugged at the bottom of her pants. "What's wrong?" Lung Ruoxue lowered her head and looked at Xiao Budian. Xiao Budian pointed at the wall opposite them. Lung Ruoxue understood that this little guy was going to take her away. Following that, a white light flashed, and Lung Ruoxue and Xiao Budian appeared in front of the demon once again. "Shuer." The demon stepped forward, his handsome face full of resentment. "We're back." Lung Ruoxue tugged at the evildoer's arm and said in a slightly coquettish manner, "Shuer, how's the harvest?" Yin Xiao asked curiously. "Not bad. These are all medicinal herbs and ores, just what I need right now." Lung Ruoxue replied simply. Even though her relationship with Big Brother Yin wasn't too bad, Big Brother Yin wasn't one of them. Hence, she didn't intend to let him know about her family background. Hee. Beastie seems to like collecting herbs even more than us," Yin Xiao said with a smile. "Yup, their sensitivity to medicinal herbs is above us humans, so it's naturally easier for them to find precious medicinal herbs than us." Lung Ruoxue agreed. "Big Brother Yin, let this little guy take us away." Lung Ruoxue continued. "Yes." Yin Xiao nodded his head. Following that, without waiting for Lung Ruoxue's instructions, Xiao Budian consciously covered everyone with a white light and brought them out of this place. After Lung Ruoxue and the rest left through the wall, they returned to the maze. After packing their things, Yin Xiao and the rest carefully followed behind Lung Ruoxue and the others and left the maze. When they returned to the main residence, Yin Xiao and the rest went back to their rooms to wash up and rest. Lung Ruoxue and the demon also took the opportunity to go back to their rooms to rest. At night, Lung Ruoxue instructed Yu Qing and Xiang to prepare some food to help Brother Yin and the rest calm down. Xiao Budian, who was ignored by them when they returned to the main residence, was nowhere to be seen. In the courtyard, Lung Ruoxue saw Ziyu and Bai Xian sitting on the stone chairs and drinking tea. She couldn't help but ask, "Where's the little one?" She had searched around just now and could not find the little one's whereabouts. She had clearly warned the little guy not to run around because there were many bad people in the forest who would capture it. Chapter 1402. The headache-inducing Xiao Budian 3. However, the little guy obviously ignored her words. In fact, in the little guy's heart, she was probably the worst person. Therefore, the little one had disappeared. "Shuer, it's with me." At this moment, Yin Xiao's voice rang out. Lung Ruoxue raised her head and saw that the Xiao Budian she was looking for was lying in Big Brother Yin's arms with a face full of fear. He was also staring at her with extreme vigilance. She couldn't help but not know whether to laugh or cry. "And didn't I say that you're not allowed to run around? You're actually disobedient." Lung Roashue put on a stern face and chided him. This little thing's talent was too annoying, so she really couldn't ignore it. Hearing Lung Roakshu's words, Xiao Budian's body began to tremble, and his fiery red eyes began to tear up. Shwea, I was the one who took it away. Seeing this, Yin Xiao hurriedly said, Big brother Yin, children can't be spoiled. I'm strict with it for its own good. Otherwise, it'll be too late when it causes trouble for us that day. Lung Roashua saw that Yin Xiao was pleading on Xiao Budian's behalf and reminded him. Actually, she was mainly afraid that Xiao Budian's talent would be used by others. If that happened, they would be the ones to lose. That was why she couldn't help but want to be stricter with Xiao Budian. Shwera, it's still small. Yin Xiao sighed. No matter if it's a child or a small beast, education has to start from when they're still young. It'll be too late to educate them when they grow up. Lung Roashua said, All right, you're right, but the little guy just came here, so there are probably many places that he's not used to. You should at least give him a few days. Yin Xiao spoke up for Xiao Budian. I can give it a few days to get used to it, but it still can't run around. Lung Roashua said very clearly. Don't worry, they'll take good care of it. Yin Xiao promised. Although she had Yin Xiao's assurance, Lung Roashua didn't think that Yin Xiao would be able to keep an eye on that little fellow with heaven-defying talent. The events of the next few days proved that Lung Roashua's worry was right. Lung Roashua sat on a chair in the living room and looked at the Xiao Budian who was squatting in front of her, feeling aggrieved. Why couldn't this little fellow be more reserved? It had only been here for 3 days, and it had almost turned her house into a mess. Lock it in the room. He knew the art of transmigration and couldn't lock it, but he didn't. It always scurried around as if no one was there. Lung Roashua did not know how to comfort Bai Xian and his wife when she saw their angry expressions. She was disturbed at the moment, and her mood was not good. Although she wanted to teach this little fellow a good lesson to help them vent their anger, she could not hit him too hard. She could scold him. It can't speak, and it's still playing dumb with you. She really didn't know what to do with it. Big brother Yin, I'm at my wits' end with this little fellow. Lung Roashua irresponsibly pushed Xiao Budian to Yin Xiao Dao. Yin Xiao's forehead was filled with black lines. In fact, the trouble that this little guy had caused these past few days had made him helpless. The little guy was extremely curious about everything here. As a result, in the first 2 days he came, he would always look around here and there. Sometimes, he was afraid that the little guy would randomly barge in, so he would follow. However, in the end, he really couldn't endure this energetic little guy, so he let him wander around by himself. He thought that Xiao Budian was familiar with everything here, but who knew that Xiao Budian had developed the habit of entering and exiting other people's rooms at will. He was also extremely curious and always barged in when others were not prepared. In fact, this was not the first time he had peeked in when a couple was doing business. He was deeply ashamed of this hobby of the little guy's. After all, he had once promised Shue that he would take good care of it. Who knew how many days it had only been? The little guy had provoked the wrath of the heavens and the resentment of the people. Even his subordinates were dissatisfied. Xiao Budian squatted on the floor, occasionally raising his head to sneak peeks at Lung Roashue and then at his backer. Woo! Why didn't his backer plead for him this time? It wasn't like it hadn't done such a thing before, so why were they so angry this time? It couldn't understand. Shwea, I'm at my wits' end. Yin Xiao said helplessly as he looked at Xiao Budian, who refused to change. What are your opinions? Lung Roakshu's beautiful eyes swept across the crowd in the hall as she asked. Miss, if we really can't do it, let this little guy live in the forest. Ziyu said after thinking for a while. Although he also pitied this little fellow's clansmen, who had all died and had no one to rely on, this little thing was too good at tormenting people. If this continued for a long time, they would go crazy. I agree, Bai Xian hurriedly said. With this little thing's talent, there's no place it can't go. Even if we let it live in the forest, what if it secretly comes back? Who can stop him? Lung Roashue could not help but ask. Miss, then what should I do? With this little one around, we won't have any privacy at all. The moon-eyed creature said somewhat uneasily. Its beautiful eyes glared fiercely at the little guy. Damn little pervert. He actually peeked at her bathing. Now, she can only transform back into her original form while she's bathing. Otherwise, if this little thing barged in, it would be gone. As soon as she thought of this, she would be the first to agree to send this little thing away. However, the young Miss words made her extremely depressed. That's right. This little thing was simply omnipresent. There was probably no place in this world that it couldn't go, and they couldn't stop it at all. Woo! Was there no other way? Sure, why don't you sign the contract immediately? In Xiao suddenly recalled that Lung Ruoxue had yet to sign a contract with Xiao Budian, so he quickly suggested. With the restrictions of the contract, Shui could control Xiao Budian's actions. It still doesn't know how to form a soul contract. Lung Ruoxue said helplessly. On the first day this little fellow came, she had already thought about this question. She had also asked the little guy about it, hoping that he would sign a soul contract of his own accord. After all, that would only work if the beastie signed it on its own accord. Furthermore, she could not possibly sign a master-servant contract with the beastie. However, who knew that the little fellow would look at her with a blank expression? At that moment, she had temporarily given up on that thought. Then what do we do? In Xiao didn't know what to do with the little guy. The little guy was quite obedient in the first 2 days he was with him. Why did he change into a different beast in just a few days? Was this his true nature? Just as everyone was unable to come to a conclusion, Uncle Zhong suddenly walked into the living room and whispered something into In Xiao's ear. Immediately, In Xiao's expression became unnatural. What is he doing here? How did he know I was here? Uncle Zhong, you betrayed me? In Xiao said in a low voice, slightly annoyed. Young master, it's my duty to report everything about you to the head of the family. Besides, he's a grandfather. If he wants to come here to see his grandson, do you think I can stop him? Uncle Zhong also felt very helpless. Alas, with the temper of the family head, it would probably be lively here. Big brother In, Uncle Zhong, what happened? Lung Ruoxue couldn't help but ask when she saw the two of them whispering to each other. In Xiao's expression seemed to be a little dissatisfied. Shui, my grandfather is here, In Xiao said, a little embarrassed. Although he didn't know the old man's purpose for coming here, judging from his grandfather's temper, this place was probably going to be lively. Oh, since Master In is here, let's go and welcome him. Lung Ruoxue was helpless as well. She had always wanted to go into closed-door cultivation, but why did things keep happening? Now that an important guest had come to the house, he was afraid that he would not be able to close up for a while. Yes, Yishao nodded his head. Then, everyone went down the mountain to receive the In family's patriarch. At this moment, the master of the In family had just entered the forest and was observing his surroundings. Especially after he entered the maze, he started to break the array in amazement. He liked to study formations. Although he didn't dare to say that he was the most proficient in formations in the immortal realm, he was definitely in the top 3. Therefore, he felt that this small maze formation was not difficult for him. However, who would have thought that after staying in the bewildering array for nearly an hour, he still wasn't able to crack this bewildering array? This also aroused his competitive spirit. This made him even more determined to not give up until he broke this bewildering formation. When Lung Ruoxue and the others found Master In, they saw a tall man with his back facing them. He was squatting on the ground and gesturing. He was so engrossed that he didn't even notice them when they were right beside him. Lung Ruoxue couldn't help but sigh. This Master In really didn't care about his own safety. His vigilance was really too low. However, from the looks of it, he was probably trying to break the array. Hence, Lung Ruoxue did not disturb him and brought her men to find a place to sit down and wait. After a long time, In Xiao couldn't wait any longer. He came to his overly invested grandfather's side and called out softly, "Grandpa!" The master of the In family, who was busy breaking the formation, ignored him. "Grandpa!" When In Xiao did not get a response, he increased his volume, but he was still ignored. "Big brother In." It seems that Master In's mind is completely focused on breaking the formation. Why don't we come back to pick him up in a few days? Lung Roashua said helplessly. The maze that she had set up was not something that could be solved in a short period of time. Since this Een family's master was so interested in breaking arrays, it was better not to disturb him. After all, she had heard many times from Big Brother Een that this grandfather of his had a weird temper. All right then, Een Shao sighed. After saying that, everyone turned around and was about to leave when they heard a dissatisfied voice behind them. Didn't you come to pick me up? How can a young man be so impatient? Can't he wait any longer? Grandpa, we've been waiting for you for half a day, and it's going to be dark soon. Een Shao turned around and reminded his grandfather, who had no sense of time. It's been that long. The master of the Een family stood up and said with a normal expression. He remembered that he hadn't studied it for long. Why is it getting dark? Master Een, come up the mountain with us. Lung Roashua chuckled as she sized up this Een family head. She knew that this person was not the Een family head from the divine mainland. His identity and status in the divine world should be on par with his godfather and the others. The Een family master in front of him looked to be in his early 30s. He was handsome and had an extraordinary bearing. His strength was the same as his godfather and the others' reverent god level. Although he did not know the purpose of his visit, he could not neglect him even if it was not for Brother Een's face. After all, he was a reverent god level master. In case he had some friendship with her godfather, she had to entertain this big Buddha well. Chapter 1403 Master Een's Motive 1. Just as Lung Roashua was sizing up Master Een, Master Een was also observing her. This little girl was not only beautiful, but also bold. She actually dared to look him in the eye. It should be known that in the divine world, other than a few old geezers who had the same status as him, there was almost no one who dared to look at him so openly. Even his grandson, who he had always doted on, only dared to look at him directly when he was angry. This made him feel depressed. He couldn't understand why those people were so afraid of him. He wasn't a man-eating tiger. She had made him lose all his interest. However, this little girl in front of him was quite interesting. He hoped that this little girl would not disappoint him. The master of the Een family looked at her from head to toe and felt that this girl was good in every way. He was very satisfied with everything. The only thing that was lacking was that his strength was too low. This can't do. Thinking of this, he was a little worried. Lung Roashua saw that this half-grown old man was only staring at her, frowning for a moment and sighing the next moment. She was extremely puzzled. What was the meaning of this patriarch Een? Furthermore, he looked like he was in a dilemma. However, Lung Roashua really could not understand why this old man was in a dilemma. After a long while, "Little girl, are you the master of this forest?" the master of the Een family asked. "Yes." Lung Roashua nodded and thought, "Isn't it obvious?" Then who set up this bewildering formation? The master of the Een family asked. "He's my senior brother." An idea struck Lung Roashua, and she told him about Bing Yao. Seeing how obsessed this old man was with formations, she was really afraid that this guy would pester her. Since her senior brother was not in the divine mainland, it was impossible for this master of the Een family to find her. Furthermore, her senior brother even treated her as his godfather, so he must not have a high status in his eyes. She couldn't help but think to herself wickedly, "Where is your senior brother now?" After hearing Lung Roashua's words, the master of the Een family's eyes lit up and he asked eagerly. "He went to the divine realm." Lung Roashua chuckled as she replied, What a coincidence. When will he be back?" The master of the Een family was disappointed, but he couldn't help asking. "I'm not sure." Lung Roashua replied innocently. After hearing Lung Roashua's answer, Master Een almost forgot why he was here. He was actually thinking whether he should return to the god world to find this little girl's senior brother. This bewildering formation was really too clever. If he couldn't ask for advice from others, his heart would feel as uncomfortable as a cat scratching it. "Sigh, Grandpa, can you leave with us now?" At this moment, Een Shao helplessly said, "Sigh." Looking at his grandfather's expression, He knew that his grandfather's mind was still on the maze. "Oh, yes, I can." Yin Xiao's words made the head of the Yin family, who was deep in thought, immediately realize his purpose in coming to the divine mainland. How could he be so foolish? He had almost returned to the divine realm. No, he couldn't come here for nothing. In any case, this little girl's senior brother couldn't run away. "Little girl, you're called Lung Ruoxue?" The master of the Yin family asked. "Yes." Lung Ruoxue nodded her head lightly. She was not surprised that this old man knew her name. "I want to stay here for a while. You don't welcome me, do you?" The master of the Yin family asked. "I want to," Lung Ruoxue said with a faint smile. No one else could invite such a big shot, so how could she not welcome him? "That's good. Oh, please lead the way," the master of Yin family said to Uncle Zhong and the others. "Master Yin, please," Lung Ruoxue said very courteously. Just as she was about to lead the way, she was unexpectedly stopped by the master of the Yin family. "Little girl, just let them lead the way. Keep me company and talk," the master of the Yin family said in a friendly manner. Lung Ruoxue was stunned. Did she hear it wrong? This old man actually wants me to talk to him? Wasn't this something his grandson would do? Why did this old man come to find him? Immediately, she became vigilant. "Little girl, shouldn't you be a good host? I'm a guest." Looking at Lung Ruoxue's confused expression, Master Yin couldn't help but complain. "I should do my best as a host." Lung Ruoxue felt helpless. Could it be that this old man was like her godfather, having two personalities? This is more like it. Master Yin was very satisfied with Lung Ruoxue's tactfulness. After he finished speaking, he pulled Lung Ruoxue to his side. The two of them walked side by side. As for his own grandson, he was disdainful of him. Ugh! Seeing this, not only did Yin Xiao have a bad feeling, but even the demon was on guard. It seemed like this old thing was here for Shui. She hoped that he would not have any ideas about Shui. Otherwise, she would definitely let him know how to spell the word regret. The group of people walked slowly and arrived at Master Lung's residence. Before they could even sit down, Master Yin started to grumble that he was hungry. Lung Ruoxue had no choice but to ask Yu Qing to help her prepare some food. "Grandpa, how can you be hungry?" Yi Xiao whispered speechlessly. He had never heard of a divine lord being hungry. "Why can't I be hungry? I'm also a human." The master of the Yin family felt very wronged. Other than practicing formations and eating and occasionally going into seclusion, what else did he enjoy? But now, this unfilial grandson even wanted to take away his pleasure in eating. This was preposterous. This is too much. Yin Xiao was speechless. He couldn't win against this old fox in a verbal fight. After a short while, Yu Qing filled the table with food that she had prepared. When Master Yin saw this, he smiled so widely that his eyes could barely be seen. "Yin family head, please enjoy. Don't stand on ceremony." Lung Ruoxue chuckled. "MMH, I want stand on ceremony with you. Little girls, aren't you going to eat?" The master of the Yin family realized that he was the only one who had sat down at the dining table. The rest of the people had all stayed far away. "We've already eaten." Just as Lung Ruoxue finished speaking, a snow-white figure scuttled onto the table and started gnawing on a large chicken leg. "Little guy, who allowed you to come here?" Lung Ruoxue looked at the snowy white little fellow on the table and said angrily. Even though they didn't mind eating with Beastie, the guests might not mind. She didn't want Master Yin to take this little fellow's life in a fit of anger. Chapter 1404. Master Yin's Motive 2. Xiao Budian, who was eating happily, heard Lung Ruoxue's words and his little body trembled. However, he still did not let go of the delicious food in his hands. He hugged the big chicken leg tightly, as if he was afraid that Lung Ruoxue would snatch it away in the next second. "Hee, don't worry, this little guy is probably hungry." Master Yin saw this and quickly tried to smooth things over. After he finished speaking, he picked up another chicken leg and started to gnaw on it. "Master Yin, please enjoy your meal. They'll go arrange a place for you to stay." Lung Ruoxue saw that the person in question did not care about Beastie sharing a table with him, so there was no need for her to interfere. After all, in her heart, humans and beastie had always been equal. With that, Lung Ruoshua left with the evildoer and the rest. The Yin family's head and Xiao Budian, a man and a beast, ate very happily. Their relationship was also established during this meal. In the next few days, the man and beast actually became inseparable. Sitting on the stone chair in the garden, Lung Ruoshua watched as Master Yin and Xiao Budian left one after another. She was extremely puzzled. He really didn't think that this old man and this little one would actually like each other. No matter where they went, they would always be together. This was really too strange. This old man ignored his grandson and didn't pester her either. What was his goal in hanging out with the little guy all day? However, the trouble that the little one caused these few days seemed to have decreased, and he had become more sensible. He was very polite when he saw her, and he was not as afraid of her as before. This made her a little uncomfortable, but the vigilance in her heart had never decreased. At the residence of the Yin family's master, Yin Xiao sat on a chair in the room and watched as his grandfather played with the little one. He was extremely puzzled. What was his grandfather trying to do? This old man simply wasn't someone who had the patience to take care of a child. Now that he was actually inseparable from Xiao Budian all day long, this made him very uneasy in his heart, especially since Xiao Budian had that kind of talent. "Grandpa, what the hell are you doing?" Yin Xiao finally couldn't help but ask. However, his words immediately attracted the Yin family's master's angry glare. "You little brat, what do you mean by playing tricks? I'm just helping you solve your problem." The master of the Yin family said angrily. Although he had only stayed here for a few days, he had heard of this little guy's great achievements. Therefore, he was quite interested in this little thing. "Grandpa, the little guy is Shui Er's beastie, so don't you dare have any ideas about him." Yin Xiao reminded. When Xiao Budian grew up, he would recognize Shui Er as his master. This was also the last words of the Fox clan's ancestor, so he did not want his grandfather to have any bad thoughts because of Xiao Budian's envious talent. Thus, he had to give him a warning in advance. "You little brat, am I that kind of person? I'm helping you to keep an eye on this little fellow, in case it causes any more trouble." Yin Xiao's words made the Yin family head so angry that he almost vomited blood. If it was an outsider who misunderstood him, he could ignore it. However, the person who had such thoughts was his most valued grandson. How could he not be furious? Really, Yin Xiao still couldn't completely believe his grandfather's words. After all, from what he knew, his grandfather wasn't someone who would do such a thing. Of course, if it wasn't for me, would Xiao Budian be so obedient these few days? The master of the Yin family was so angry that his eyes were spewing fire as he roared loudly. "Grandpa, then tell me, what are you doing here?" Yin Xiao asked seriously. He still had doubts about his grandfather's purpose for coming here. "I miss my grandson. Can I come to see my grandson?" The Yin clan's patriarch said unhappily as he cursed Yin Xiao in his heart. "Little brat, little rascal, what a heartless kid. Would I have come here if not for you?" He felt very wronged in his heart. It was fine if this kid didn't appreciate it, but why did he put on a suspicious face for him to see? This was really too much. "Grandpa, you really miss me?" "But Grandpa has been here for a few days, and it seems like we haven't even exchanged a few words." Yin Xiao reminded. He wasn't that easy to fool and could be dismissed with a few words. "I see you every day, don't I? That's good enough. What's the point of talking?" The master of the Yin family said disapprovingly. Yin Xiao didn't know what to say after hearing his grandfather's words. He sighed and stood up. "Since Grandpa is satisfied to see me, I won't disturb you any longer." With that, Yin Xiao turned and left. After Yin Xiao left, the head of the Yin family lifted Xiao Budian up in front of him and said, "Little guy, we're comrades now. You have to be a good match for me." Xiao Budian nodded his head as if he understood. His fiery red eyes were focused on the Yin family's master. "Take me out of here now," the master of the Yin family ordered. After the little guy finished listening to Master Yin's words, a white light covered Master Yin's body. In an instant, Master Een was moved from his room to the outside of the main residence. Then bring me back, the master of the Een family said. The little guy nodded his head, and a similar white light enveloped the Een family's patriarch's body. In the blink of an eye, they were back in the Een family's patriarch's room. Hee hee, little guy, you're really amazing. It was fun just now, right? The Een family head said happily. This little guy was an unexpected gain for him. Yes, yes. The little guy furiously nodded his head. He liked to wear things like this, and the request of this old man in front of him just happened to satisfy his interest. What a good child. Let's play again if we have a chance. After Master Een finished speaking, he hugged Xiao Budian's undergarments and laid down on the bed to take a nap. In reality, he was thinking about his own plan in his heart. After living in the Lung family's main residence for almost half a month, Master Een would carry Xiao Budian and stroll around every day. He had practically walked around the main residence once. After that, he had Xiao Budian bring him to walk around the forest a few times. The man and beast left early in the morning and returned late at night every day. There was almost no sign of them. If it wasn't for the fact that she knew that Master Een had not left, Lung Ruoxue would definitely have thought that he had kidnapped Xiao Budian and escaped. However, she did not deliberately stare at where the master of the Een family went. According to Qing Ju, besides wandering in the forest, the master of the Een family spent more time in the maze. Chapter 1405. Master En's Motive 3. We're back. Master En carried Xiao Budian into the garden and saw Lung Ruoxue and the rest sitting on the stone chairs. He greeted them warmly. Master En is back early today. Lung Ruoxue chuckled. Xiao Budian and I were a little tired today, so we came back early. We'll go back to our room first. After Master En finished speaking, he carried Xiao Budian and left. Lung Ruoxue watched Master En's back as he left. She then turned to En Xiao and said, Big brother En, did your grandfather really come because he missed you? Lung Ruoxue was very suspicious. If they were really here for En Xiao, why would they ignore her grandson and hang out with a little beast all day? He said yes. En Xiao spoke the truth as he looked at Uncle Zhong nearby. Uncle Zhong, who received En Xiao's gaze, turned his head away. No one knew what he was thinking. Oh, Lung Ruoxue nodded and did not comment. No matter how she looked at him, she felt that Xiao Budian was more like the grandson of Master En. However, to Lung Ruoxue and the others, this was just a small interlude. None of them took it to heart. Moreover, with the company of En family's master, the trouble that Xiao Budian caused was obviously less. This outcome was not bad. As the days passed, the relationship between En family head and Xiao Budian grew by leaps and bounds. Compared to the past few days, when the man and beast left early and returned late, they rarely went out these few days. Girl, I heard that you know how to play chess. Come play a few games with me. The master of the En family went to look for Lung Ruoxue early in the morning, his face full of anticipation. All right, yes, Lung Ruoxue replied. Then, the two of them set up a chessboard in the living room. When the others saw this, they gathered around to watch the battle. The game they played was similar to Go. It was also divided into black and white pieces. However, the way they played it was slightly different. Moreover, Go contained spiritual qi. Playing chess was the best way to test whether a person's mind was stable or not. This was because usually a game would take a long time. If it was someone with the same strength, it was possible to play a game for days and nights. The chess field was like a battlefield. It was also full of mutual deception. Lung Ruoxue chose the white stone, and Master En chose the black stone. After making their choices, Master En said, Little girl, you're the junior, so you should make the first move. All right, he said. Lung Ruoxue didn't stand on ceremony either. She randomly picked a spot and placed the chess piece down. Little girl, how about we have a little wager? The master of the En family suggested as he held the chess piece in his hand for a long time. All right, I wonder what kind of wager Master En has come up with. Lung Ruoxue asked with a faint smile. Even though she didn't know what this old man was up to, she wasn't afraid no matter what his motive was. If you lose, you have to do one thing for me. If I lose, I can agree to one request of yours. How is it? The master of the Een family said after some thought. Good, I'm fine with it. Lung Ruoshua nodded in agreement. Then it's decided. After Master Een finished speaking, he put down the chess piece in his hand. Then, the two of them exchanged hundreds of rounds, but there was still no clear winner. Master Een looked at Lung Ruoshua, who was as calm as ever, and felt more and more satisfied. What a steady little girl. He was so young, but his heart was so firm. It was really rare. Oh, although this little girl's current strength was a little low, she would definitely become a great person in the future. At the thought of this, Master Een treated Lung Ruoshua even more seriously. After playing for a few days, the two still couldn't determine a winner. Master Een held the chess piece in his hand and pondered for a long time before he said, Girl, how about we call this a draw? I don't have any objections. Lung Ruoshua went along with the flow when she heard Master Een's words. Actually, she had wanted to say this for a long time, but she was too embarrassed to say it. Girl, we haven't decided who's going to win. Why don't we play something else? The master of the Een family said. Master Een, we've been playing chess for so many days. I'm a little tired, so I won't be accompanying you. Lung Ruoshua said helplessly. After she finished speaking, she stood up and prepared to leave. However, she was stopped by the Een family's master. Girl, if you don't keep me company, then no one will. The Een family's master said pitifully, his face full of hidden bitterness. When Lung Ruoshua heard Master Een's words, she couldn't help but roll her eyes. She thought to herself, You're getting drowsy after playing a game of chess, and you've chased away all the spectators. It'd be a wonder if anyone would be willing to accompany you. Master Een's chess-playing speed was unusually slow. Usually, after she placed a piece, he would have to think for a long time before he would place his piece on the board, causing her to almost go crazy. However, out of courtesy, she held back. The evildoer and the others who were originally watching the game could not stand the speed of this old man's chess playing, and all abandoned her. Therefore, there were only the two of them in the originally lively hall. All right, there was also a little beast sleeping very soundly in Master Een's arms. Master Een, I'm really tired, Lung Ruoshua said weakly on purpose. She really didn't want to play chess with this old man anymore. Otherwise, who knew how many days this game would take? Then what should we do? The master of the Een family frowned and said gloomily, I'm going back to my room to rest. You can play by yourself. After Lung Ruoshua finished speaking, she was about to leave. However, before she could take 2 steps, she felt a numbing sensation on her shoulder. Then she lost consciousness. The moment she fell, Master Een quickly caught her and placed her on the chair. Little guy, take us out of here. The Een family head woke Xiao Budian. The little guy rubbed his eyes and looked at Master Een. He then looked at Big Sister Xiong, who was sleeping on the chair. He was very puzzled. Why didn't the old man go out alone today? Why did he bring this fierce big sister along? However, every time this grandfather went out, he would make good food for it and play with it. Therefore, it didn't think much about it and directly enveloped the two of them in white light, taking them out of the Lung family's main house. At this time, the evildoer who felt flustered in his room sensed that something was wrong and immediately ran out of his room and went straight to the living room. However, when he appeared in the living room, there was no one there. Seeing this, the demon was furious. He punched the table, and the table was crushed into powder in an instant. Chapter 1406. Master Een's Motive 4. When Ziyu and the others heard the commotion, they came to the living room and saw the evildoer standing alone in the living room with a gloomy face. No one knew what he was thinking. Where's Miss? Ziyu couldn't help but ask. Could it be that guild leader Yi and Miss had quarreled? Otherwise, why would leader Yi's expression be so ugly? He was taken away by that old thing, the demon said coldly. After he finished speaking, he strode out of the living room. Seeing this, Ziyu and the others quickly followed. When they arrived at the Yin family's residence, Ziyu knocked on Yin Xiao's door. Why are you guys here? After opening the door, Yin Xiao's face was filled with question marks. These people didn't seem to have good intentions. Did he do something he shouldn't have? He thought to himself, where's your grandfather? Before Ziyu could open her mouth, the demon impatiently asked, isn't he playing chess with Shui? Yin Xiao replied with a question mark on his face. He didn't understand why the demonic man would ask him such a question. He took Shui away. The demon said coldly, what do you mean? Did they go out together? Yin Xiao asked in a daze. It's to take him away. Don't you understand? The demon questioned impatiently. Humph. He dared to touch his woman. He must be tired of living. I don't understand. Yin Xiao said honestly. This man's temper was really big. Who had provoked him? He still wasn't very clear where this devilish man's resentment came from. Your grandfather kidnapped Shui? I'm sure you understand now. The evildoer gritted his teeth. He had never seen such a stupid man. Yin family's young master. He really didn't know what kind of insight that old man had. He couldn't help but curse in his heart. That's impossible, right? Why did my grandfather kidnap Shui? There's no reason for that. Yin Xiao said in disbelief. His grandfather wouldn't do such a thing. This man was too suspicious. Shui was so smart. How could she let others take her away so easily? If she didn't do it willingly, they would notice even if she made the slightest movement. Moreover, this was Shui's home. It would be very difficult for outsiders to make a move. You'll have to ask your grandfather then. Anyway, Shui is in his hands now. Contact him immediately and see what he wants. The demon ordered. All right then. Yin Xiao nodded helplessly. Although he didn't believe that his grandfather would do such a thing, he still had to find a way to prove his grandfather's innocence, since he was his grandson. He didn't want his grandfather's brilliance to be destroyed in a day. After all, their Yin family's reputation in the divine realm was extremely good. Thinking of this, he tried to contact his grandfather. However, his grandfather did not give him any response, which made him feel bad. You didn't reply? The demon looked at Yin Xiao's expression and said indifferently, yes, Grandpa is probably busy. He might reply in a while. Yin Xiao said, don't lie to yourself. That old man took Shui and ran away. The demon said coldly. Seeing how certain the demon was, Yin Xiao didn't know what to say. He didn't dare to argue with him in case he made him even angrier. Guild leader Yi, why don't we give chase immediately? Yu Qing suggested. There's no need to chase. We can't catch up with the supreme divinity's speed. If I'm not wrong, he should have taken Shui to the divinity. The demon said with a gloomy face. Then what do we do? Yu Qing said anxiously. He'll go to the divine realm to find Shui. The demon said without any hesitation. Initially, he wanted to wait for Shui to break through to the high-level deity stage before going to the divine world together. However, it seemed like they would have to go ahead of time. Guild leader Yi, they'll go with you. Ziyu said after hesitating for a moment. Well, go too. Bai Xian and his wife said in unison. I'll go too. Yu Qing said after some thought. She knew that she was weak and would be a burden to them if she went to the divine world. However, she wanted to find her master. All of you stay here to look after the house. They'll bring the Yin family over. The demon looked at Yin Xiao and said, Young master, Yin won't refuse, right? The demon asked again. I want tea. I was just about to go back to the Yin residence to take a look. Yin Xiao's face was filled with helplessness as he thought to himself. Would there be any use in refusing? Moreover, if Shui was really taken away by his grandfather, he really had to go back and get Shui out. If that's the case, then, young Master Yin, please immediately call the Yin family. We will set off immediately. The demon said hurriedly. Chapter 1407. First time at the Yin residence. 1. All right. Yin Xiao replied, and immediately went to gather the Yin family in the courtyard. When the Yin family heard that their young master wanted to return to the divinity, they were all shocked. Uncle Zhong couldn't help but ask, Young master, are we going back to the divine realm now? He couldn't understand why the young master wanted to leave just like that. And Yin Xiao nodded, but he did not explain to Uncle Zhong and the others that it was because his grandfather had kidnapped Schwerer that they had no choice but to return to the divine realm. Yetchen, can we set off now? Yin Xiao turned his head and asked the demon. Wait, I'm going to break through first. After the evildoer finished speaking, he went straight into Yin Xiao's room and closed the door. Ziyu and the rest stood guard outside the door to prevent him from being disturbed. Yin Xiao blinked his eyes and thought to himself, how could this person advance just like that? In fact, the demon had no choice but to advance his cultivation base in advance because he was going to the divine world. Otherwise, with his strength as a high-level deity, he would only be abused when he reached the divine world. Not long after the demon entered the room, a law of heaven and earth descended. When he walked out of the room, he was already a god. This was the minimum requirement to go to the divine world from the divine mainland. There were 6 levels above the advanced divine being, namely the divine being, the divine master, the divine monarch, the divine king, the divine emperor, and the divine reverend. Although the demon was only a divine being, he was not an ordinary divine being. Therefore, breaking through the boundary between the divine being and the god was like adding wings to a tiger, like a fish in water. The divine realm. Incoming. Schwer. Incoming. Although Schwer was also taken away by someone this time, compared to the time in the Hautian continent, the demon was much more relaxed. The last time, the strength of his enemy was much weaker. Besides being angry, he was more upset with himself for not being able to protect Schwer. This time, he had the ability to kill his way to the divine world. Besides, the people who took Schwer this time were different from the last time, so he was not very worried about Schwer's safety. He would also have to pay the price for taking Schwer away. Let's go. After the demon finished speaking, he walked straight to the front. Yin Xiao and the others quickly followed. In order to go to the divine realm through the divine land, they had to go through a teleport portal, which was located at the southernmost part of the divine land. It would take them about 3 days to get there from the Nightmare Forest. After leaving the Nightmare Forest, Yin Xiao took out his flying beast. The demon didn't stand on ceremony and sat on it. Yin Xiao's flying beast was a huge white eagle. This eagle was a Class 7 sacred beast, which was considered to be one of the strongest flying beasts. Moreover, this white eagle was proud by nature. It usually wouldn't carry anyone other than the people of the Yin family. However, when the demon sat on it today, the white eagle didn't even dare to object. This couldn't help but cause the Yin family to be surprised. Following that, Yin Xiao and the rest also sat on it. Without waiting for his instructions, the white eagle soared into the sky and flew towards the teleportation array to the divine realm. 3 days later, the demon and the rest arrived at the teleportation array. After paying the teleportation fee, everyone walked into the teleportation formation. As a white light flashed, they arrived in the divine realm in an instant. The divine world was a legendary place that many people had yearned for. However, the divine world was not as beautiful as people had imagined. The cruelty of the divine world was even greater than that of the divine mainland. After all, a family that could survive and even occupy a place in the divine world was definitely not something that an ordinary family could compare to. Such a family usually had countless years of inheritance before they could attain their current status. Of course, the competition within such a family was also extremely intense. However, at the same time, this kind of competition had also nurtured countless clan elites. Whether it was the 8 great divine domains or the various top clans, this was how they had selected talents for countless years. The evildoer's cold black eyes stared at the divine world he was in without saying a word. Yin Xiao and the others did not dare to disturb him when they saw him like this, because they could feel that the evildoer was different from before he had advanced. In the past, the evildoer seemed very weak. Most of the time, he was standing behind Lung Ruoxue. With his peerlessly handsome face, many people thought that he was a pretty boy with no power. However, the evildoer now gave people the feeling that he was a sharp blade that could take lives at any time. Thus, When Yin Xiao and the others saw his current appearance, especially when he was deep in thought, they did not dare to disturb him. Let's go to the Yin clan's divine realm. After a long time, the evildoer finally spoke. "All right," he said. Yin Xiao nodded and took out his white eagle. Everyone sat on it, and without waiting for its master's instructions, the white eagle flew towards the Yin residence. The divine realm was extremely large, and the Yin clan was located at the northernmost part of the divine realm. Even if the white eagle flew day and night, it would still take about a month to reach the Yin clan. This month would be the most difficult month of the white eagle's life. At this moment, Lung Ruoxue had already been brought to the Yin family's god domain by the master of the Yin family. When she opened her eyes and realized that she was in an unfamiliar place, she understood. It seemed that she had been kidnapped by the master of the Yin family and was an accomplice. Needless to say, Shout Buddy indefinitely had a share. Otherwise, it would be very difficult for the master of the Yin family to leave the defensive formation that she had set up. When Lung Ruoxue thought of this, she really wanted to grab that little thing and give it a good spanking. This little thing that was a traitor. She had raised it well, but it actually joined forces with outsiders to betray her. "Miss, you're awake." Not long after Lung Ruoxue opened her eyes, a beautiful servant girl came forward and greeted her respectfully. "Where is this?" Lung Ruoxue knew the advisor's intentions. She didn't need to guess to know that this was the Yin residence. However, she didn't know if she was in the godly mainland or if she had already left. "This is the Yin family's master's house," the maidservant respectfully replied. "The Yin family's head? Then wouldn't this place be the god world? I can't believe that old man actually brought me away from the godly mainland. How despicable." Lung Ruoxue thought to herself angrily. Evildoer and the others must be worried about me. That you're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.